So there I was, stepping into my brand new territory like a king about to claim his throne, and my fancy deer leather boot landed straight into a puddle of donkey crap mixed with rotten cabbage juice. Welcome to Greywood Town. My kingdom. My empire. My absolute dumpster fire. Picture this. A couple dozen shacks that look like they'd lose a fight to a strong breeze, roofs covered in straw so old it turned black, and streets made entirely of mud and bad decisions. The smell? Imagine a gym locker room, but medieval. Nobody here has seen a bath in months, and apparently toilets haven't been invented yet because everyone just dumps their business wherever they feel like it. And my people, oh, my beloved subjects, they were standing there in clothes that were literally old potato sacks, staring at me like I was the Grim Reaper in fancy boots. Skinny kids hiding behind their skinny moms. Guys kneeling in the mud like their lives depended on it. Which, honestly, they kind of did. See, here's my backstory. I'm not actually from this world. I woke up in the body of the third son of some big-shot Duke back in the capital. Sounds great, right? Wrong. Daddy Duke got destroyed in some nasty palace politics, and I got stripped of everything and kicked out to the absolute armpit of the empire. Congratulations, kid, you're a baron now. The lowest, most pathetic rank of nobility, ruling over a town that even stray dogs avoid. My butler, Bar, this ancient dude in a robe made entirely of patches, hobbled up to me and said, "Welcome, my lord. Tradition says you collect a first meeting tax from the people today. But, they can't even afford bread with sawdust in it. So your options are basically, take their daughters, or take the food they need to survive winter." Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Great start. But here's where things got interesting. The moment I crossed into Greywood's border this morning, something pinged in my brain like a video game notification. Ding. Lord Population Dividend System activated. For every registered, living person in your territory, you receive 1 silver coin per day. Automatically. For free. Just for them being alive. My heart almost exploded. 1 silver coin buys 100 loaves of bread in this world. A normal peasant family works an entire year and saves maybe 30 copper coins. 1 silver is 100 coppers. I was getting 1 silver per person per day, so I tried to play it cool. "Hey, Bar, just curious, how many people live here exactly?" He sighed, pulled out this moldy old scroll, and said, 836, my lord. Was 850, but a few starved to death recently. 836. That's 836 silver coins a day. Over 8 gold coins daily. A rich viscount with prime farmland makes like 50 gold a year. I could beat that in a week. Lying down. Doing absolutely nothing. In a town that smells like a sewer had a baby with a compost heap. I was doing the math in my head, grinning like an idiot, practically tasting the gold, when I heard a thud. Some old farmer who'd been kneeling nearby just fell over, face first into a puddle of literal sewage water. Twitched twice. Done. Baller casually made a little cross on his chest. Oh well, may the light god have mercy. Guess the mass grave outside town gets another body tonight. Might attract wolves again. And right on cue, my brain went, ding. Territory population, -1. Current count, 835. Tomorrow's income, 835 silver coins. My smile froze on my face. My eyes went red. That old man didn't just die. That old man was 1 silver coin a day. That's 365 silver coins a year. Over 1,000 in 3 years. He was a walking, breathing ATM, and he just shut down on me. I lost it. Like God, can your light God pay my bills? I yanked out my sword and pointed it at the old man's body, screaming at every guard in earshot. Pick him up. Pour water on him. Pinch his nose. Get me the best herb doctor in town. Now, if he dies, none of you eat dinner tonight. In MY territory, nothing dies without my permission. Not a person, not a dog, not even an ANT. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I became the most aggressively pro-life landlord in the history of fantasy worlds. Not because I'm kind, not because I'm noble, because every single one of these starving peasants is a coin-printing machine, and I will protect my investment with my life. The peasants of Greywood Town swore they'd never seen a nobleman lose his mind this fast. Not only did I skip the welcome tax, that would have basically murdered half of them, I ordered my guards to carry that half-dead old farmer into a clean tent like he was royalty. My exact words, which I'm not proud of, were, This man is the most valuable treasure in Greywood. Even if we have to use ginseng to keep him breathing, save this money tray. I mean, this dear elderly gentleman, back in my lord's manor. And I'm using that term very generously because it was basically a wooden shack that screamed every time I sat down. I had a little chat with Bar. How much food do we have? About 200 pounds of oats, my lord. Half of it is sand. That's supposed to last you and the guards through winter. The peasants? They can go chew on tree bark, I guess. Not. Good. Enough. Every single one of these 835 people was a walking silver coin factory. If half of them starved, I'd be losing income. Real, tangible, shiny income. I'd sooner eat my own boot. So I closed my eyes, thought the word, withdraw, in my head, and whoosh, my bag suddenly weighed about 10 pounds more. I slammed it on the table and let it rip open. Over 800 silver coins came pouring out like a slot machine jackpot, rolling and clinking across the wooden table in the most beautiful symphony I'd ever heard. Bar nearly had a heart attack. His knees buckled. His eyes went the size of dinner plates. The Duke's family got raided. I was exiled. Where in the name of everything holy did I get a fortune big enough to hire a private army? Don't ask where it came from. Even if I told you a wizard pooped it out, it's still real money. Now listen, I pointed at the pile of coins like a general pointing at a battle map. Take 2 guards. Ride to Red Leaf City. Buy everything. The finest white wheat flour. Slabs of salted pork. Barrels of malt beer. Coarse salt. Clean cloth. Load it all on carts and bring it back. Bar blinked. You want armor? War horses? Armor? I want food, you old goat. Food and meat. And not that garbage black bread made of rocks and sawdust. I want ingredients for white bread. The good stuff. The poor old man was shaking like a leaf. My lord, you've gone insane. White wheat. Salted meat? For peasants? They were born to eat dirt. Feeding them white bread is an insult to the light god himself. Screw the light god and his dietary opinions. In MY territory, if I say they deserve white bread, they get white bread. Now go. If you come back 1 grain short, I'll hang you from that crooked tree by the town gate. See, everyone thought I was crazy. But I had a SBREADSHET in my head. 1 pound of premium white flour, 3 copper coins. 1 pound of salted pork, 10 coppers. Even if I stuffed all 835 people until they looked like balloons, it'd cost me maybe 20 silver a day. They produce 835 silver a day just by breathing. That's over 4,000% profit margin. 4,000%. Wall Street wishes they could find a deal this good. Anyone who wouldn't do this is a certified idiot. By evening, a dozen carts loaded with food rolled into Greywood's sad little square, and the whole town lost its collective mind. 3 massive iron pots went up over roaring fires. Clean well water boiled. Bags and bags of snow-white oat flour dumped in. Then the cook started hacking off thick chunks of fatty salted pork and tossing them in. No measuring, no holding back, and finished it off with handfuls of coarse salt, which in this era was basically more expensive than gold. The smell. Oh my God, the smell. Rich, thick, meaty porridge steam rolled through the entire town like a flavor tsunami. The peasants, who had been hiding in their broken-down shacks, basically waiting to die, came crawling out like zombies who smelled brains. Except instead of brains, it was pork. They were on their hands and knees in the mud, eyes glowing green, staring at the chunks of meat bobbing in those pots, swallowing so hard you could hear it. One guy literally fainted from the smell alone. Just dropped. Out. From smelling food. That's how bad things had been. I climbed up on the wooden steps of my shack manor, looked down at the sea of starving faces, and made my grand announcement. From today, the welcome tax is canceled. Everyone grab your bowls and line up. 1 big bowl of meat porridge and 1 white bread roll per person. As long as you are a citizen of Greywood, as long as you are still breathing, I, Lorian Wisteria, personally guarantee you will eat your fill every single day. Silence. Total. Absolute. You could hear a flea cough silence. Then thud. Thud. Thud thud thud. All 830-something of them dropped to their knees at once, like dominoes falling in mud. Men, women, grandmas, toddlers, everyone. Forehead, meat dirt. Repeat. They were sobbing, wailing, full-on ugly, crying into the mud. The light god has answered our prayers. Our Lord is a saint. You are holy. You must be a saint reborn. I will lick your boots for generations, great Baron. My brain dinged right on cue. Citizen loyalty, maximum. Territory stability, massively increased. Population status, rock solid. I looked down at my flock of devoted, weeping worshippers, and I couldn't stop my mouth from curling into the biggest, most villainous grin of my life. Eat up, my precious little money machines. Eat till you pop. You think you're eating meat porridge? Nah, you're maintaining my printing press. Every spoonful keeps the coins flowing, and Daddy's quarterly earnings are looking fantastic. I woke up to the most beautiful sound in the universe. Not birds singing. Not a pretty girl whispering good morning. Nope. Ding. Daily settlement complete. Population, 835. 0 deaths. Payout, 835 silver coins. I shot up from my sad little plank bed like it was Christmas morning, thought, withdraw, and clink clank clinkety clink. Hundreds of brand new silver coins rained down onto my sheets, forming a gorgeous little mountain of pure profit. I grabbed a fistful and just listened to them clink together. My scalp tingled. My toes curled. I think I made a noise that would be embarrassing if anyone heard it. Yesterday's grocery bill? Paid back in full, plus hundreds extra in pure profit. At this rate, I could build a marble mansion in this mud hole within a month. But then my business brain kicked in. 8 gold coins a day is king-level money out here in the boonies, sure. But if I ever want to raise an army, by magic scrolls, and march back to the capital to shove my boot up the backsides of every nobleman who exiled me? Pocket change. Not even close. The problem was obvious. Not enough people. 10,000 citizens. 100 gold a day. 100,000? 1,000 gold daily. 1,000,000? I could literally bury the imperial palace in coins. I needed more humans. Like yesterday. And then, as if the universe read my business plan and said, say less, my door slammed open. Baller stumbled in, wheezing like he'd just sprinted a marathon, face white as paper. My lord. Disaster. The neighboring Redleaf Viscounty has a famine and a plague. The Viscount kicked out over 10,000 landless refugees to save his own food supply. 3,000 or 4,000 of them are heading straight for Greywood right now. His cavalry is chasing them toward us with whips. The old man was hopping from foot to foot in panic. Seal the gates. Put archers on the walls. If those refugees get in, they'll eat everything we bought, spread disease, start riots. Every baron in the area is already ordering their soldiers to shoot refugees on sight. Now, in medieval logic, refugees are basically walking locusts. No money, no skills, just hungry mouths that might stab you for a moldy cracker. Every sensible lord treats them like a zombie apocalypse. But me? I heard 3,000 to 4,000 people heading my way, and my brain went. 3,000 people times 1 silver coin each times every single day equals 3,000 silver equals 30 gold coins daily. My current income would quadruple, maybe quintuple, just by letting them in and feeding them. I slapped my own thigh so hard it echoed off the walls, jumped to my feet, and my eyes lit up like I'd just discovered fire. Locusts? Everyone else is blind. Those aren't refugees, Bar. That's a mountain of gold that grew legs and is walking into my pocket. By itself. In an orderly line, Bar looked at me like I'd finally snapped completely. New orders. I was already wrestling my leather armor on, hopping on one foot, screaming like a lunatic. Load every cart in town. All the leftover meat and flour from last night. Pile it on. Every guard grabs a weapon, not to defend the walls. You're coming with me to the border. We're rolling out the red carpet. We're welcoming them. Baller's brain was visibly short-circuiting. Yes, Greywood's doors are wide open today. And if any of my men shoots 1 arrow at 1 refugee, if anyone hurts a single one of my incoming gold nuggets, I will personally peel their skin off and use it as a welcome mat. 1 hour later, there I was, riding my chestnut horse down the muddy highway, leading a convoy of carts carrying giant steaming pots of hot porridge, like a medieval food truck parade. Ahead of me, thousands of refugees. Ragged clothes, bare feet, hollow eyes, dragging crying children through the mud. Behind them, the Redleaf Viscount's cavalry cracking whips at their backs. Every other territory had slammed their doors shut. These people were walking toward what they assumed was just another wall, another rejection, another slow death in the wilderness. And then they saw me. a young nobleman on a red horse, staring at them like they were made of diamonds. Grinning so wide it was honestly kind of unsettling. Behind me, carts full of food with steam rising into the sky. I drew my sword, filled my lungs with every ounce of air they could hold, and screamed across the wasteland at 4,000 terrified strangers. Everything Red Leaf threw away. Greywood takes it all. If you swear you're my people, I don't care if you're a man, woman, old, young, ugly, or smell terrible. Free food. Free housing. Meat with every meal. Zero taxes. Now stop standing there and get into my arms. You beautiful, beautiful money. I mean, people. And right there, on that muddy road in the middle of nowhere, with a crazed baron screaming love poetry at thousands of starving strangers while waving a sword next to a convoy of soup wagons. The first brick of what would one day become the greatest million-person megacity on the entire continent of Nolan was laid. Not with stone, not with mortar, with absolute insanity and a profit margin that would make a dragon weep. The wind was cutting across the wasteland like frozen razors, and 3,000 refugees were standing there staring at me like I'd just told them the sky was green. Nobody moved. Not one person. I'm standing on my horse, arms wide open, literally begging people to come eat free meat. And they're looking at me like I'm a serial killer with a soup cart. And honestly, I get it. There was this old guy near the front, tough-looking dude with a busted leg. The refugees called him Old Wolf. Former soldier, fought half-orcs on the border, got his leg messed up, and the army threw him out like yesterday's trash. Turned into a farmer. Then the drought hit, and he got kicked out of that too. Now he's standing in the mud clutching his 5-year-old granddaughter, who looks like she hasn't eaten in a week, and he's thinking one thing. This is a trap. This pretty boy baron is going to lure us in and sell us to slave traders or throw us into a death mine. Can't blame him. In this world, when a nobleman smiles at you, it usually means you're about to have a very bad day. Meanwhile, the Red Leaf cavalry captain, some jerk named Carl, was sitting on his horse behind the refugees, laughing his armored butt off. Oh look, it's the little lord who got kicked out of the capital. What's wrong, Lurian? Greywood, so broke you're picking through other people's garbage now. These mud people don't have 2 coins to rub together. I didn't even look at him. I had much bigger problems. Every second these people stood there not signing up was a second they might drop dead, and every dead refugee was a silver coin that would never jingle in my pocket. Time was literally money, and the clock was ticking. BLR. Stop standing there like a statue. Open the lids. The old man's hands were shaking, but he gave the order. The wooden covers came off all 3 giant iron pots at once. What happened next was basically a weapon of mass persuasion. A tidal wave of meaty, weedy, salty deliciousness erupted from those pots and hit the entire wasteland like a flavor bomb. 3,000 empty stomachs growled at the same time. I swear the ground vibrated. Old Wolf's legs gave out. Not from weakness. From smell. His starving little granddaughter, who'd been basically unconscious in his arms, suddenly opened her eyes like she'd been resurrected and whispered, "Grandpa." Meat. That's my cue. I stood up in my saddle and pointed at a pile of wooden boards and charcoal pencils we'd brought. Yeah, I know, wooden boards. We couldn't even afford paper. My territory was so broke that official government documents were written on planks. Listen up. You want porridge? Line up. Write your name on a board. Can't write? Dip your thumb in charcoal and stamp it. Once you stamp, you're officially a citizen of Greywood, and this pot of porridge is all yours. That's it. That was my entire immigration system. A thumbprint on a dirty plank of wood. Ellis Island could never. But I didn't care if they registered with a fingerprint, a toe print, or a face print. All I needed was for the system to count them as mine. Old Wolf broke first. The man literally threw away every survival instinct he had, hobbled to the front of the line on his bad leg, and slammed his blackened thumb onto the wood so hard it almost cracked. I'll stamp it, my lord. His logic, as far as I could tell, was, if my granddaughter can eat 1 bowl of real meat porridge before they kill us, then screw it, worth it. The instant his thumb hit that board, ding. Legal citizen 1. Current territory population, 836. My eyes ignited. I snatched the big wooden ladle right out of the cook's hands, dove it to the bottom of the pot where all the good stuff sinks, and scooped up the thickest, meatiest, most disgustingly generous portion of porridge physically possible. I even handpicked the biggest chunk of fatty pork and plopped it right into his sad little wooden bowl. Excellent work, soldier. Eat up. Chew carefully. Don't you dare choke. You need to stay alive, you hear me? Stay alive. I was looking at this old man with more love and tenderness than I'd ever shown any human being in 2 lifetimes. He wasn't an old, crippled refugee to me. He was silver coin 836, and he was precious. Old Wolf stood there holding his steaming bowl, completely frozen. He looked down at the glistening chunk of pork, looked up at me, smiling at him like he was my long-lost father. Looked at the pork again, back at me. No whip, no insult, no trick, just real meat, in a real bowl, given by a real nobleman, who looked genuinely thrilled to see him. By the light God above, he crashed to his knees in the mud, tears streaming down his weathered face. Fed the porridge to his granddaughter first, spoonful by tiny spoonful, while smashing his forehead into the ground toward me. You are mercy itself. I, Gareth, swear my worthless life belongs to you forever. And just like that, the dam broke. 3,000 people went absolutely feral. My lord, let me stamp. Me next. Move it, I was here first. My whole family, 7 people, register all of US. Stop pushing. I need to stamp. Ding. Citizen 1. Ding. Citizen 1. Ding. Citizen 1. Ding 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 ding. My brain sounded like a slot machine hitting jackpot on every pull. The notifications were going off so fast they were overlapping, stacking, practically tripping over each other. Every thumbprint was a silver coin. Every dirty fingerprint was a daily deposit. Every I stamp was the sound of my net worth skyrocketing. I stood there watching thousands of people stampede toward my registration planks, literally fighting each other for the privilege of becoming my citizens, and my grin stretched so wide I'm pretty sure I pulled a muscle in my face. Come to Papa, you beautiful, beautiful walking money trees. Every single one of you. Bring your grandma. Bring your weird uncle. Bring the baby. Especially the baby. That kid's got like 70 years of silver coins in him. The pots were emptying. The planks were filling up. The dings wouldn't stop. And I, Lorian Wisteria, disgraced exile and baron of a mud town, was having the single greatest day of my entire life. Right in the middle of my beautiful registration party, I heard the most annoying sound in the world, the clanking of armor and the clip-clop of horses belonging to people I absolutely did not invite. Carl the cavalry captain rode up with his dozen armored goons, all polished metal and bad attitudes, looking down at me like I was a clown performing at a children's party. Well, 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 what a touching scene, he said, dripping with sarcasm so thick you could spread it on toast. Baron Lorien, I heard about your family's disgrace back in the capital, but I didn't realize the exile broke your brain too. He waved his riding crop at my refugees, who were currently inhaling porridge like vacuum cleaners. 3,000 walking poop factories, and you're feeding them white flour and salted meat? You think you're some kind of saint. My refugees all flinched and shrunk down when they heard his voice. Classic bully effect. The man radiated, I will hurt you for fun, energy. I didn't even look up from my horse. Carl, you're standing at the border of Greywood territory. These are MY citizens now. Watch your mouth, citizens. Bahaha. Carl threw his head back and laughed like I'd just told him the funniest joke in human history. Give it 3 days, Baron. Your piggy bank will be empty, and these citizens of yours will rip you apart and boil your bones for soup. I'll be watching from Redleaf with snacks. Now, Carl represented the standard aristocratic worldview here. Refugees equal disaster. Mouths equal death. Feeding the poor equals suicide. Every nobleman on this continent would have agreed with him. But Carl didn't have a magic system printing money in his brain every morning at 6. So I smiled. Bigger than him. Wider than him. The kind of smile that makes people uncomfortable. A sparrow can never understand the ambitions of an eagle, I said, because yeah, I went full ancient proverb on him. Then I reached into my coin bag, pulled out a fistful of silver, and casually tossed them up and down in my palm. Clink, clink, clink. Every single eyeball on that field, Carl's, his soldiers, the refugees, locked onto those coins like moths to a lantern. Out here on the border, silver shines brighter than a supermodel. Carl was practically drooling. Hey Carl, quick question. I squinted at him like a shady businessman about to close a deal. I heard there are still 1,000 or 2,000 refugees stuck back in Redleaf territory. The ones too weak to walk, Carl swallowed hard, eyes still glued to my coins. Yeah, maybe 1,000 or two. Old, sick, half dead. Can't move. They'll probably die in a ditch by tonight. Why do you die in a ditch? What a waste. I physically winced. Every refugee who died in a ditch was a silver coin rotting in the mud. Unacceptable. I threw the entire handful, 20, 30 silver coins, right at Carl's horse's feet. They scattered in the dirt like the most expensive confetti ever. That's a little tip for your trouble. Now go back and tell your Viscount. Every refugee who's still breathing, even barely, load them on carts and deliver them to Greywood. I want them all. Carl's jaw dropped. His brain was clearly buffering. Oh, and one more thing. My voice went up a notch, my eyes practically glowing. Let's make this a permanent arrangement, Carl. From now on, any refugees, beggars, dying slaves, anyone that Red Leaf or any nearby territory doesn't want, ship them to me. I held up my hand, fingers spread. 5 copper coins per head. Delivered alive. That's my standing offer. Dead silence. Carl and his boys were staring at me like I'd just announced I was marrying a goat. Paying for refugees? The ones nobody wants? The old, the sick, the useless? The people other lords literally pay to get rid of? This was like walking into a garbage dump and offering cash for every piece of trash. It made 0 sense to anyone without a magical income system hardwired into their skull. But here's the thing about Carl. He was greedy. Greedy people don't ask questions when money's on the ground. You said it, Baron. No takebacks. He practically fell off his horse, making his soldiers pick up the coins. His face twisted into a nasty grin. By sundown tomorrow, I'll personally deliver 2,000 pieces of gubra. I mean 2,000 of your precious citizens, right to your doorstep. Hope your treasury isn't empty by then. He rode off cackling, absolutely convinced he was scamming me. Meanwhile, Baller was hyperventilating behind me. My lord, have you lost your mind? We can barely feed 3,000. If 2,000 more show up, Greywood will collapse. Collapse? I watched the registration counter in my brain ticking up like a stock market on the best day in history. My grin could have scared a demon. Baller, you sweet, innocent old man. You'll never understand. He's not delivering beggars. He's delivering money printers. In my head, I was doing the math. 5,000 total population means 5,000 silver a day. 50 gold coins daily. A wealthy viscount's entire annual income every 24 hours. And all I had to do was survive until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, when the system pays out again, and I'd have more than enough to feed an army. Carl thought he was dumping garbage on me. He was hand-delivering a gold mine, gift-wrapped, with a bow on top, and charging me only 5 coppers per bar of gold. Worst negotiator in the history of this continent. Best business partner I've ever had. Night fell over Greywood, and 3,412 brand-new citizens were camped outside town around big bonfires, sleeping on cold dirt like the world's worst music festival. But nobody cared. Every belly was stuffed with the best meal they'd ever had. People were lying there with dreamy smiles, probably thinking they'd died and gone to heaven. Which, ironically, was the one thing I was desperately trying to prevent. Old Wolf, my first recruit, my favorite silver coin, was leaning against a dead tree stump with his granddaughter asleep in his arms, voluntarily playing night guard. The man had appointed himself my personal bodyguard without being asked. He was sitting there petting a rusty knife and muttering, "Anyone touches Lord Lorien, and I'll bite their throat out. Dude, I gave you 1 bowl of porridge, and you became my ride or die. This is the best employee retention program in history." Meanwhile, inside my luxurious manor, and by luxurious I mean a wooden box with a clock, I was pacing back and forth like an expectant father in a delivery room. 5:55 a.m. 5 minutes until payday. My heart was doing drum solos in my chest. My fingernails were getting destroyed. I was staring at that clock so hard I could have melted it with my eyes. Please, please don't let anyone freeze to death tonight. See, medieval nights are brutal. Cold enough to kill healthy people, let alone starving refugees who just ate their first real meal in weeks. I'd ordered Baller to burn every dead tree in town for bonfires, not out of kindness, but out of pure financial anxiety. Every frozen body was a deleted direct deposit. I was treating these people like they were Faberge eggs. Priceless, fragile, must not break. 5:58, 5:59. The second hand was crawling like it was doing it on purpose. I swear that clock was trolling me. And then, The hour hand, the minute hand, and my entire nervous system aligned at once. 6 o'clock a.m. Ding. Daily settlement complete. Current territory population, 4,247. 835 original 3,412 new refugees. All new citizens survive the night. Today's payout, 4,247 silver coins. Deposited to system storage. My brain literally exploded. Not figuratively. I mean, fireworks went off inside my skull. Every blood cell in my body started doing the wave. Withdraw. Withdraw everything. Now. What happened next was not a bag of coins. Oh no. We were way past bags. A solid waterfall of metal materialized in midair above my bedroom floor. Crash, clinkety, clank, clang, crashed. 4,247 silver coins poured from the ceiling like the world's most expensive rainstorm and slammed into the wooden floor. The noise was so loud I'm surprised it didn't wake up the entire camp. We're talking dozens of pounds of pure silver. The pile was half a meter tall. It knocked over my table. It filled half my room. My sad little shack bedroom looked like a dragon's treasure vault. 42 gold coins and 47 silver. In one day? A normal border baron doesn't make that in a year. I threw myself face first into that pile like Scrooge McDuck diving into his money bin. Shoved both hands deep into the coins and just wiggled my fingers. Let them cascade through. Felt every single cold, beautiful, stamped with the imperial seal piece of silver slide across my skin. I'm rich. I'm actually rich. I lay there for a solid minute, just marinating in money, having a moment. Then my business brain kicked in and slapped my happy brain across the face. This isn't safe yet. I stood up, looked out the window at the pale morning light, and suddenly felt ice cold. Not from the weather, from fear. It was getting colder every day. My people were sleeping outside. Full bellies don't mean anything if your lungs freeze. One bad flu outbreak could chain react into a full plague, and if that happened, my 4,247 daily silver coins would evaporate faster than spit on a hot stove. This wasn't charity. This was asset protection. I was a fund manager, and my portfolio was made of humans, and they were sleeping in MUD. BLR. Get in here. Now. I kicked the door open and screamed at the old man, who was dozing off on my porch. He scrambled inside, looked up, and froze solid. The man was staring at a mountain of silver coins that took up half the room. His eyeballs looked like they were about to pop out of his head and roll across the floor. Like God, my lord, have you mastered the legendary art of alchemy? Shut up and grab bags. I threw sacks at him. Get every guard. Ride to Red Leaf City. Find the merchants. Buy everything. Wood, stone, thatch, warm fabric, medicine for colds. All of it. Buy the store. Buy the warehouse. I don't care, but what's all the building material for? What do you think? Houses. I need my 4,000 head of, my 4,000 beloved citizens in warm, solid, roofed buildings before winter hits. Every last one of them. Because if even one of my precious little money generators caught pneumonia and died, that wasn't a tragedy. That was a quarterly loss, and I, Baron Lorien Wisteria, do not accept losses. When the sun came up, I had all 4,000-something of my citizens lined up in the town square like the world's saddest army. Original Greywood peasants on one side, fresh off the highway refugees on the other, everyone standing at attention, staring up at me like baby birds waiting for mama to drop a worm. I'd changed into a sharp new nobleman's hunting outfit because if you're going to make history, you should at least look good doing it. People, winter is coming. Yeah, I said it. Sue me. I, Lorien Wisteria, will not allow a single person in my territory to freeze to death. Starting today, Greywood begins a massive construction project. Hundreds of new houses. Every leaky, broken-down shack gets demolished and rebuilt from scratch. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I could practically read their thoughts. Old Wolf's face tightened up. Oh, there it is. The catch. He fed us meat, so we'd have the energy to work ourselves to death. Classic nobleman move. And honestly, he wasn't wrong to think that. In this world, lords order peasants to do forced labor all the time. It's called corvée, and it's basically work until you collapse, eat slop, die if you die, nobody cares. That's just how things are here. The sky is blue, water is wet, and peasants build stuff for free until their spines snap. Every single person in that square had already mentally accepted their fate. Okay, we got one amazing meal out of it. Now we pay with our backs. Fair enough. Better than dying on the road. And that's when I dropped the nuke. To reward your hard work, I am announcing that every adult who participates in construction, whether you're chopping wood, hauling stone, or mixing mud, in addition to 3 full meals a day, I pulled out my sword and pointed it straight at the sky for dramatic effect. That will receive 2 copper coins per day as wages. You know that sound a computer makes when it crashes? That blue screen of death silence. That's what 4,000 brains sounded like simultaneously breaking. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The only sound was wind whistling through the trees like even nature was confused. Old Wolf was blinking so fast I thought he was having a seizure. Bar, standing below the platform, grabbed a fistful of his own beard and yanked it so hard his eyes watered. I think he was checking if he was dreaming. Paying peasants? Giving actual money to people who are legally classified as furniture? People who don't even own their own bodies? This wasn't just breaking the law. This was spitting in the face of every tradition, every custom, every ancestor who ever lived on this continent. Somewhere in nobleman heaven, 1,000 dead lords rolled over in their marble graves simultaneously. One brave soul from the original Greywood crew raised a trembling hand, voice cracking like a teenager going through puberty. My lord, you're saying, we build houses for ourselves. You feed us, and you pay us money on top. I glared at him. Did I stutter? I have more money than I know what to do with. Build fast, build solid, don't freeze to death, and 2 coppers is nothing. If you do a good job, I'll throw in a year-end bonus. Here's the thing, I'm not generous. I'm efficient. I needed these houses built fast. Winter was breathing down my neck, and dead citizens meant dead income. If I didn't pay them, they'd drag their feet, take breaks, do the absolute minimum. Classic employee behavior. I've managed people before. In my old world and this one. Unpaid workers are slow workers. But 2 copper coins? To people who've never held money in their lives? That's rocket fuel. That's liquid motivation injected directly into the bloodstream. Let's do the math. 4,000 workers times 2 coppers equals 8,000 coppers equals 80 silver coins a day. My daily income from these same people? 4,247 silver coins. I was spending less than 2% of my earnings on wages. In the corporate world back home, that would make me the most cartoonishly evil CEO in existence. The labor board would shut me down in an afternoon. But here, in medieval fantasy land, I was basically Jesus. Old Wolf's eyes went red. Not angry red. The kind of red where a grown man who's been beaten down his entire life suddenly discovers that maybe, just maybe, the universe isn't completely rotten after all. He clenched his fists so hard his knuckles turned white, threw his arm into the air, and screamed with everything his old soldier lungs had. Long live Lord Lorien. For our Lord. For our new homes. I'll cut down 10 trees today, even if my hands fall OFF. Long live the Lord. May the light God bless Greywood forever. The roar was deafening. For 1,000 people who had been walking corpses yesterday were now vibrating with energy. Eyes on fire. Veins popping. Ready to fight God if he stood between them and a lumber yard. They grabbed stone axes, wooden shovels, rusty saws, anything with an edge, and charged toward the forest like a barbarian horde. Except instead of pillaging, they were doing carpentry. I watched my workforce stampede into the tree line, howling war cries about construction, and I couldn't help but laugh. 2 copper coins. That's all it took to turn 4,000 starving refugees into the most motivated building crew on the planet. Somewhere out there, a viscount with a fancy castle is taxing his people into the grave and getting 50 gold a year. And here I am, paying my people pocket change, getting worshipped like a god, and making his annual salary before lunch. Being a good boss pays, baby. Out at the quarry, my people were going absolutely berserk. Old Wolf was swinging his pickaxe like a man possessed, hands covered in blood blisters, not even flinching. His buddy Pete, big guy, full beard, was hauling stones the size of toddlers onto carts and wheezing like a dying accordion. Gareth, slow down. Even a mill donkey gets a water break. Shut your mouth, Pete. Old Wolf didn't even turn around. Clang, clang. Sparks flying off the rock. Did you not hear the Lord? 2 copper coins. When I was in the army stabbing half-orcs for a living, All I got was stale bread that tasted like someone's armpit. 2 coins, Pete. I know, but... Come on. Pete wiped his forehead, doing that classic medieval peasant thing where he desperately wants to believe something good, but his entire life experience is screaming it's a trap. Nobles don't give money back. They take money. That's what nobles do. It's like saying fire is cold. It doesn't make sense. It makes sense because Lord Lorien is a saint. Old Wolf screamed, smashing his pickaxe down so hard sparks flew like fireworks. These guys were arguing about whether I was real while building my houses at 3 times normal speed. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Then sunset came. The horn blew. Payday. For 1,000 mud-caked, sweaty workers lined up in a queue so long it wrapped around the camp. Old Wolf shoved his way to the front, breathing so hard he sounded like a broken bellows. Eyes locked onto the little piles of copper coins sitting on Baller's table like they were made of pure diamond. Gareth. Baller adjusted his monocle and scratched his quill across the parchment. 5 trees felled. 10 loads of stone hauled. He picked up 2 copper coins and dropped them into Old Wolf's filthy, bloody palm. The old soldier stared at those coins. 2 little copper discs, slightly worn on the edges. Cold, heavy, real. And then, I kid you not, this battle-hardened veteran who'd fought monsters for a living shoved both coins into his mouth and bit down. He needed to taste the metal. He needed his teeth to confirm what his brain refused to believe. The bitter tang of copper hit his tongue, and the man's whole face crumbled. They're real. Dear God, they're real money. Pete, next in line behind him, got his 2 coins, looked at them for exactly half a second, and then collapsed to his knees, sobbing, kissing the coins like they were holy relics. Full on making out with copper pieces in the mud. Tears, snot, the whole show. The entire camp turned into the weirdest celebration I'd ever witnessed. Grown men crying. Women clutching pennies to their chests like newborn babies. Old people holding coins up to the firelight and just staring. Nobody was tired anymore. Their eyes were glowing green in the dark, and I could tell half of them wanted to grab torches and go chop down more trees right now. At night, in the dark. 2 copper coins per person. That's what it costs to create an army of construction maniacs. I'm basically running a cult at this point, except instead of weird robes and chanting, we have lumber and aggressive carpentry. Then I heard hooves. Carl rode up to the town gate with his cavalry boys, and behind them, a long, shambling trail of what looked like the world's most depressing parade. 2,000 more refugees, barely alive, coughing, shivering, wearing clothes that were more whole than fabric. Oh, my dear Baron Lorien. Carl was practically singing with sarcasm. As promised, I've delivered Red Leaf's leftovers. 2,050 rotting wretches pulled fresh from the ditches. I wonder if your treasury can still afford a pot of soup for this batch. Baller took one look at 2,000 more open mouths and nearly fainted on the spot. It's over. We're finished. They'll eat us into bankruptcy. But me? I was looking at those 2,000 shivering, coughing, half-dead refugees the way a hungry man looks at an all-you-can-eat buffet. 2,000 new citizens. 2,000 new daily silver coins. 20 more gold coins hitting my account every single morning. Oh, Carl, my brother, my angel sent from the darkness itself. I grabbed a fat linen bag and hurled it at his horse's feet. It hit the ground with a deeply satisfying thunk. 10,000 copper coins. 100 silver. Your delivery fee as agreed. And Carl, if you ever get more of these, you come to me first. I'll take 10,000. 20,000. I'll take them all. Carl opened the bag. Saw it was stuffed to bursting with real coins. His eye twitched. He looked up at me. Looked at the coins. Looked at the 2,000 dying people he'd just delivered. Back at me. I could practically see the gears grinding in his skull, trying to find the logic, failing completely. You absolute lunatic, he muttered under his breath. You're going to die, you stupid pig. Then he took my money and galloped away, happy and confused, absolutely positive he'd just scammed a madman. Meanwhile, I turned to my 2,000 shiny new money printers, shaking, coughing, looking at me with huge terrified eyes, and gave them the warmest smile I had. Baller, quickly, don't let my babies get cold. Fire up the pots. Cook the porridge. Get them registered. Every thumbprint was a silver coin. Every cough was a cough I needed to cure. Every heartbeat was a transaction pending. Carl thought he delivered garbage. He delivered next month's payroll. Cold wind was howling outside my beautiful mansion, and by mansion, I mean a wooden box that shakes when I sneeze. While I sat at my desk swirling a cup of overpriced wine like some kind of medieval Wall Street bro, waiting for the stock market to open. Sleep? Who needs sleep? Not me. Not tonight. 6,297 people. That's how many humans I now owned. In a world where wars and famine have made people scarcer than good hygiene, that's practically a small city. I watched the clock on the wall tick like the world's slowest slot machine. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6 a.m. Ding. Daily settlement complete. Population, 6,297. Payout, 6,297 silver coins. Withdraw. What came next was no longer a rainstorm. No longer a waterfall. This was a full-blown avalanche. Boom, crash, clinkety-clank, smash. 6,297 silver coins materialized above my tiny bedroom and came down like a meteor made of money. My table collapsed. The pile went up to my waist. A stray coin bounced off the mountain and hit me square in the nose. I literally saw stars. Gold stars. Which felt appropriate. The floorboards under me started groaning like a dying whale. My bedroom was one bad coin away from caving into whatever was below it. Probably just dirt, but still, being buried alive in silver would be the most on-brand death I could imagine. I pulled my legs out of the coin pile like a man escaping quicksand and did the math, panting. 63 gold coins. Per day. In this world's economy, that could buy me a squad of fully armored elf slave girls or a 3-story garden villa in the capital's fanciest neighborhood. Daily. I'm rich. I'm genuinely, stupidly, impossibly rich. And then the smell hit me. Oh God. Through the cracks in my wooden walls, a wave of stench rolled in from the refugee camp that was so powerful it should have been classified as a biological weapon. Imagine 6,000 people who haven't bathed in years. Not months, years. These people think soap is witchcraft and that bathing literally invites demons. Now add 6,000 people's worth of poop. Everywhere. On the ground. Next to where they sleep. Next to where they eat. Mix in some rotting infected wounds for flavor. Let it marinate in medieval summer air. And you've got a smell so thick I'm amazed it didn't gain sentience and start paying rent. With the population past 6,000, the stink had reached DEFCON 1. I could have been knocked unconscious by breathing too deep. But the smell wasn't what scared me. What scared me was what comes after the smell. Plague. One epidemic. That's all it would take. One nasty disease ripping through a camp of 6,000 unwashed, poop-adjacent humans, and my 63 daily gold coins would drop to zero faster than I could say, wash your hands. I don't need half-orcs to destroy me. A single FLU could wipe out my entire fortune. I kicked my door open, stared into the morning mist, and made a decision that would once again shatter every medieval tradition into a million pieces. Half an hour later. Town Square. 6,000 porridge-filled citizens staring up at me. Citizens of Greywood. I am issuing my first official decree. The Greywood Absolute Cleanliness ACT. I pinched my nose shut and pointed at the nightmarish landscape of human waste surrounding the camp. Rule 1. Half of all construction teams stop building houses immediately and start digging. I want 10 massive sewage pits and public toilets built downwind from the town. Yesterday, Rule 2. Anyone caught pooping anywhere other than the designated toilets. First offense, your daily wages are gone. Second offense, no meat porridge for 3 days. Rule 3. I am building 4 large public bathhouses. Every evening, every single one of you will wash yourselves until you are as clean and smooth as a peeled egg. If you refuse, say goodbye to your paycheck. The crowd erupted into confused chaos. Old Wolf scratched his lice-infested hair and raised his hand with genuine confusion. But, my gracious lord, pooping on the ground is tradition. Our fathers pooped on the ground. Their fathers pooped on the ground. Making us walk all the way to a special pooping building is cruel and unusual punishment for our intestines. I hit him with the one argument no grandfather can survive. Oh really, Gareth? So you want your little granddaughter sleeping next to a pile of human waste and catching a deadly stomach disease? You want her to die because you couldn't walk 50 extra steps to poop in a hole. His face went white like someone unplugged him. The man did a complete 180 in half a second flat. Nobody poops on the ground. He roared at the crowd. instantly becoming my chief sanitation enforcer. You hear me? Anyone who drops a load outside the toilets, I will personally shove my sword handle up there. Thank you, Gareth. That's enough detail. I turned to Bar. Take yesterday's money. Ride to Red Leaf City again. Buy every bar of soap, every ounce of salt, every bottle of pig fat cleanser, every bolt of clean cloth those merchants have. And tell them Greywood doesn't flinch at prices. Because what's the point of having 63 gold coins a day if everyone dies of dysentery? I'm not building a town. I'm building a portfolio. And portfolios require maintenance. Rule number 1 of investment: protect the asset. Rule number 2: make sure the asset doesn't poop where it sleeps. So apparently word got out that some lunatic baron was throwing gold around like confetti because a merchant showed up. His name was Hobby, a fat, shrewd little man with tiny eyes that could smell a copper coin from 3 kingdoms away. He rolled up in a cart full of garbage-tier beer and moldy linen, dragged along by a horse that looked like it had given up on life. His cart driver had been complaining the whole way. "Boss, are we really going to the place with 6,000 starving refugees? They'll eat us. They'll literally eat us for a piece of bread." "Shut your mouth, you stupid groundhog." Hobby had slapped his fat belly and grinned. That baron's butler was in Red Leaf City yesterday dropping dozens of gold coins. Bought half the market. Where there's gold, Hobby goes, even if it's a toilet in hell. But when they crested the hill and saw Greywood, both of them nearly swallowed their tongues. No corpses, no plague, no apocalypse. Instead, they saw thousands of ragged but energized people swarming like army ants, hauling massive logs, carrying boulders, chanting work songs in unison. Foundations going up, walls being built. The whole place looked like someone kicked an anthill, except the ants were on performance-enhancing drugs. And then Hobby spotted the really weird part. Hundreds of people downwind, digging enormous pits and lining them with stones. With extreme dedication, like it was the most important task in human history. "Holy light God," the cart driver stammered. "Are they digging mass graves?" "No, you idiot." Hobby's eyeballs were practically falling out. "Those maniacs are building sewers and public toilets for peasants." He sat there on his cart, mouth hanging open, brain short-circuiting. Even the richest dukes in the capital didn't build dedicated pooping facilities for their people. This baron was building luxury restrooms for refugees. In the middle of nowhere. I walked out to meet them with Baller hobbling behind me, arms wide open like a used car salesman greeting his favorite customer. "Welcome, dear merchant, to the rising miracle of Greywood." My eyes were already scanning his cart like a barcode reader. "Cloth? Check. Soap? Maybe. How much?" "Not enough. Never enough." Hobby hopped off his cart and slapped on his sleaziest salesman smile. "Noble Baron, I'm Hobby. I've brought fine linen and beer. As for the price, well," he rubbed his fingers together. "You understand, with bandits on the road and all." Skip the sales pitch. "How much rough cloth do you have? How much soap? Winter coats? Blankets?" Hobby's merchant instincts kicked in. He smelled desperation. Time to go for the throat. "Well, my lord, I have 500 bolts of cloth, 1,000 bars of soap. If you want all of it, that's going to be, oh dear, at least 30 gold coins. You know, bandits, supply chains, very dangerous roads, 30 gold coins. For stuff worth maybe 10. This round little con artist was marking up 300% and already rehearsing his apology speech for when I screamed at him. I didn't even blink. I snapped my fingers at Bar. The old man staggered forward carrying a sack, so heavy he looked like he was about to herniate something, untied the top, and poured. 3,000 silver coins hit the mud at Hobby's feet like a shiny landslide. A mountain of silver, gleaming in the morning light, piled up against his boots. "That's 30 gold and silver," I said, in the same tone you'd use to order a sandwich. "Count it." "Oh, and I'm adding a 10 gold coin deposit on top." Hobby's knees gave out. He dropped straight into the mud next to his money pile, like someone cut his strings. His voice was vibrating. "T10 gold. Deposit? For what?" I crouched down and patted his chubby little cheek. "Go back to Red Leaf City. Tell your guild. No, tell every merchant in the entire city. I want all the soap, all the cloth, all the salt, all the medicine. Everything. Strip the shelves bare. Load it on carts. Bring it here." I leaned in close. My eyes were doing that crazy thing again. Tell every fat cat merchant that Greywood is buying survival supplies at premium prices. Unlimited. No cap. No ceiling. You bring it, I buy it. You fill a card, I fill it back up with silver. Hobby was cradling silver coins against his chest, crying actual tears, snot running down his face. You are the god of wealth walking among mortals. I'll sell my own underwear if I have to. I'll bring everything. He scrambled onto his cart and whipped that sad horse into the fastest gallop of its miserable life, disappearing down the road in a cloud of mud and greed. Baller watched him go, wringing his hands. My lord, aren't we spending a bit fast? I glanced at my system panel. Population health status. Thanks to the new shelters and the toilet revolution, extremely healthy. 0 disease risk. 0 death projections. 6,297 silver coins, locked in and printing, every single morning at 6 a.m. sharp. I put my hand on the old man's bony shoulder and smiled. Baller, my sweet old friend. Someday you'll understand what it truly means to earn gold by the bucketful every single day while doing absolutely nothing. I was spending money like water, and everyone thought I was insane. But here's the secret. My faucet refills faster than my drain empties. Every coin I spend on soap and blankets is an insurance policy on 63 gold coins of daily income. Every toilet I build is a firewall against plague. Every warm coat is a guarantee that my precious little money generators survive the winter. Hobby thinks he ripped me off at 300% markup. Buddy, my people give me 4,000% returns just by breathing. You're not the scammer here. I am. And I'm scamming the entire medieval economic system. 5:59 a.m. My room. Me sitting at my brand new oak desk, calmly spinning a steel dagger between my fingers like a Bond villain. No pacing tonight. No nail biting. No staring at the clock like a lunatic. Tonight, I was thinking. Ding. Population, 6,301. For new babies born yesterday. Payout, 6,301 silver coins. For babies. For brand new humans who did absolutely nothing except get born, and they're already on my payroll. Best employees I've ever had. 0 training required. Just cry, poop, breathe, and generate daddy 1 silver coin per day for the next 70 years. Beautiful. I closed my eyes and peeked into my system storage. A massive mountain of silver sat there glowing like a dragon's hoard from a fairy tale. But for the first time, I did not scream, withdraw everything, like a deranged goblin. Because my business brain had finally slapped my greedy brain hard enough to take the wheel. Money is great, I muttered to myself, twirling my knife. But without a sharp enough sword to protect it, money is just a fancy invitation to get robbed. Reality check. I had been spending like a maniac. Carts full of silver rolling into Red Leaf City every day, buying out entire markets. Tipping cavalry captains with 100-coin bags. A merchant literally crying tears of joy at my feet. And I was supposed to be a broke, exiled, disgraced baron who got kicked out of the capital with nothing but the clothes on his back. Anyone with 2 brain cells would start asking questions. Where's the money coming from? How does a guy who got his entire family destroyed suddenly have more cash than a duke? If Red Leaf's Viscount found out, he'd invade by Thursday. If news reached the capital, the same people who destroyed my family, they'd send an army to finish the job. Greywood would be flattened and my 6,000 precious money generators would be scattered or slaughtered. I was a piglet rolling in gold in a forest full of wolves. Not smart. Time to get smart. I withdrew just 50 silver coins, pocket change, and knocked on my desk. Baller, get in here. The old man shuffled in, instinctively ducking and shielding his head as he crossed the doorway. He was fully expecting another silver avalanche to come crashing from the ceiling. When he saw the room was clean and quiet, he looked genuinely confused. Like a dog who heard the treat bag rustle, but there's no treat. You called, my lord? I stood up, walked over to him, and got serious. Actually serious. No crazy eyes, no screaming, no coin throwing. Baller, I know you've been wondering where all this money comes from. The old man flinched like I'd poked him with a sword. And no, my lord. A servant should never question his master. Even if your gold comes from a deal with the devil, you are still the kindest ruler Greywood has ever. Relax. I put my hand on his shoulder. Then I put on my best sad, mysterious, noble suffering face. Oscar-worthy performance incoming. The truth is, this money is the last gift from my mother. Your mother, sir? Yes. I lowered my voice to a dramatic whisper. My mother came from the most powerful merchant family in the South. Before I was exiled, she secretly sent me a spatial ring containing her life savings. Total lie. Absolute fabrication. 100% grade A, premium bull. But in a world where spatial magic exists, rare but real, this was the most believable cover story possible. Exiled noble's rich mommy hid an emergency fund in a magic ring? Every person on this continent would nod and say, yeah, that tracks. I stared deep into Baller's eyes. But here's the thing. This money is finite. Every coin I spend is gone forever. Lie? It literally refills every morning at 6 like clockwork. And more importantly, if the Red Leaf Viscount or any nearby lords find out I'm sitting on a fortune, what do you think happens? Baller went pale. The old man understood medieval politics better than I did. They'd come for us like jackals smelling blood. They'd invent some excuse to attack, then rob us clean. Exactly. I nodded, satisfied. So here's what we do. No more big baller moves. No more dumping pure silver on merchants' feet. We tone it down, find that merchant hobby, slip him a few coins, tell him to spread a story, that I sold my mother's only high-level magic amulet on the black market for emergency cash, and that money is almost gone. We're practically broke, barely surviving. Tragic, really. Baller's eyes lit up. A cover story. Brilliant. And from now on, no more shiny new silver coins for purchases. Go to the black market. Exchange for worn-out coppers, chipped silver, ugly coins. Buy from different merchants every time. Small orders, different routes. Spread it out. We need to look poor, Baller. We need every lord in the region to look at Greywood and think, that poor idiot is going bankrupt feeding refugees. Meanwhile, behind the curtain, we quietly fatten up 6,000 people into the healthiest, most loyal citizens on the continent. Baller was nodding so fast I thought his head would fly off. The old man finally understood the game. I walked to the window and stared out at the waking camp. Smoke rising from cooking fires. The distant sound of hammers and saws. My people, building their new homes, eating their breakfast, completely unaware they were the most valuable assets in the world. My expression went cold. The money, we can hide. But teeth. I ran my thumb along the edge of my dagger. Teeth need to start getting sharpened. Because right now, I was the richest man in the region pretending to be the poorest. I had a gold mine that literally grew legs and built its own houses. I had loyalty so intense that Old Wolf would bite someone's throat out for me over a bowl of porridge. But none of that mattered if a viscount with 50 knights showed up tomorrow. Money buys food. Money buys buildings. Money buys soap and toilets and merchant loyalty. But money doesn't stop a sword. Phase 1, get rich, was complete. Phase 2, get dangerous, was about to begin. Lunchtime. Porridge bubbling as usual. But today I had something different cooking. I sent out a new order. No construction wages today. Every male between 15 and 40 with working arms and legs, report to the East Field. Immediately, 1,500 dudes showed up, looking nervous as cats in a room full of rocking chairs. Pete was in the back, practically vibrating with anxiety. Old Wolf, what's happening? Is the Lord kicking us out? I just got used to eating. I just started enjoying having money. I'd rather die than go back to the wilderness. Shut your bird mouth, Pete. Old Wolf snapped, though I could see from up on my platform that even he was sweating through his shirt. I walked out wearing head-to-toe black leather armor instead of my usual noble getup. Sword on my hip. No smile. Full military energy. Time to scare these boys a little. Men of Greywood. Quick question. These past few days, have you been eating well? Sleeping warm? Yes? Full bellies. Praise the Lord. 1,500 voices hit me like a wall of sound. Good. I let the smile drop off my face like a rock. Now let me ask you something else. Do you really think, in a world where even dogs bite each other for scraps, that you can just sit here eating white bread and collecting paychecks forever? Dead quiet. Got their attention. Yesterday, I received reports. Red Leaf Cavalry has been circling our borders. Bandits in the wilderness are grouping up. They can smell your meat porridge from miles away. I let that sink in for a second, then twisted the knife. They want to storm into Greywood, steal your bread, burn your half-built houses, and sell your wives and daughters to brothels. You could have heard a pin drop. Then breathing got heavy. Eyes went red. Fists clenched. Jaws tightened. See, here's the thing about people who've just grabbed a lifeline after years of drowning. threaten to take it away, and they turn into animals. These men weren't soldiers. They were starving nobodies who'd just tasted dignity for the first time, and the thought of losing it made them absolutely feral. Old Wolf exploded out of the crowd like a cannonball. My lord, let them come. I'll bite their throats out with my teeth, if I have to. God, I love this man. He's my favorite silver coin and my favorite psychopath. Perfect. That's exactly the kind of crazy I need. I pointed at him. Gareth, step forward. From today, you are the captain of Greywood's new militia, the Iron Guard. Then I clapped my hands and my guys wheeled out several carts covered in oilcloth tarps. Dramatic pause. Eye contact with the crowd. I ripped the tarps off. Sunlight hit hundreds of iron spears, swords, and thick leather armor sets, all laid out in neat rows, edges sharpened to a wicked gleam. Not pretty. No fancy engravings. But sharp. The kind of sharp that says, I will go through you like butter. I'd had ballers smuggling these in through black markets across multiple territories for days. Small batches. Different sellers. No paper trail. Because in medieval law, peasants owning weapons is about as legal as a fish riding a bicycle. But you know what? Laws are written by people with armies. And I was about to have one. I need 500 men who aren't afraid to die. I drew my sword and pointed it at the sky. Classic move. Never gets old. Join the Iron Guard. No more hauling rocks. Your pay goes up to 5 copper coins a day. Meat at every meal. Your families get first priority for the new houses. But if enemies come, you stand at the front. Between them and Greywood. With your bodies. With your blood. If you're willing to sell your life for this, come get your weapon. Old Wolf didn't hesitate for a tenth of a second. He charged up the platform, grabbed an iron cross-sword with both shaking hands, dropped to one knee, and roared, My sword fights for you. Pete was right behind him, eyes red, tears streaming, snatching a spear. Count me in. I am never going hungry again. Me too. I'll sign a death contract. Give me a sword. They swarmed the carts like Black Friday shoppers at a TV sale. Pushing, shoving, grabbing weapons, swearing loyalty oaths through gritted teeth. These weren't warriors. These were starving men who'd been given food, money, and purpose for the first time in their miserable lives, and they would kill to keep it. In under 30 minutes, 500 weapons sets were gone. Every single one. I looked down at my brand new army. Formation? Terrible. Discipline? Non-existent. Training? Zero. But their eyes. Their eyes looked like a pack of wolves that had just been fed steak and told someone was coming to take the next one. You can't buy that kind of motivation. You can't train it. That comes from men who know exactly what starvation feels like and have decided they'd rather die swinging a sword than go back. The Iron Guard. 500 former peasants, former refugees, former nobodies, now armed, fed, paid, and absolutely backcrap crazy loyal. Total daily cost, 2,500 coppers, 25 silver coins. That's less than 0.5% of my daily income. I'd just bought an entire private army for the price of a nice dinner. And anyone who wanted to touch my 6,000 daily silver coins, my beautiful, breathing, porridge-eating ATM machines, they'd have to go through 500 full-bellied madmen who would genuinely, enthusiastically, happily chew their faces off. The portfolio now has security. The dragon has teeth. Come get some. 30 miles from my beautiful money factory, in a nasty stretch of pine forest that smelled like cheap beer and armpit, a one-eyed psychopath named Baron, nickname Bloodblade, because of course it was sitting on a log, polishing a sword so beat up it looked like someone had been using it to chop firewood. This charming gentleman was the biggest bandit boss in the region. 300 killers under his command, deserters, broke mercenaries, wanted murderers. The kind of guys whose hobbies include stabbing and more stabbing. Some scrawny rat-faced scout came scurrying out of the woods, practically foaming with excitement. Boss, I bribed a stable boy at the Gold and Rose Merchant Guild, that exiled Baron Lorien. He sold his mommy's magic amulet for a fortune, thousands of silver, maybe gold. Oh, wonderful. My beautiful cover story, the one I specifically planted through hobby to make me look broke, had worked perfectly. Too perfectly. Because instead of hearing, that poor Baron is almost bankrupt, these geniuses heard, that poor Baron had thousands of silver coins recently. Thanks, medieval telephone game. Really appreciate it. And get this, the rat continued, drooling. He's feeding 6,000 refugees. White flour porridge with salted pork. Every day? And his security? 0 knights. 0 real soldiers. Just a bunch of skeleton-thin peasants. One of Baron's lieutenants, a brick wall of a man with a face like a punched meat pie, burst out laughing. Is this kid running a charity? 6,000 helpless little lambs, mountains of food, and no army? Boss, this is a Christmas present from the light God himself. In their heads, the math was simple. 300 armed, battle-tested killers versus 6,000 unarmed peasants equals the easiest raid of all time. Sell the young women to slave traders. Force the men into labor. Kill the old folks and children because they're not worth the bread. Standard medieval bandit business plan. Absolutely disgusting, but that's this world for you. Baron stood up, jammed his chipped sword into its sheath, and grinned with his one good eye. Nobody gets drunk tonight. After dark, we move. I want the Baron alive. I need to find where he hid his money. Everyone else. Kill anyone who resists. Take all the food. Take all the women. Tonight, boys, we're having a barbecue in Greywood. Kill. Steal. Meat. 300 animals howled into the trees like a pack of hyenas who'd spotted a wounded deer. And they slithered into the darkness toward my town like a black cloud of pure scum. Now, here's the fun part. At that exact same moment, I was in my office having a completely different crisis. Baller had just handed me a report, tiptoeing like a man delivering bad news to a dragon. My lord, during the sewer construction yesterday, there was a cave-in. 2 workers were badly hurt. The old herb farmer did his best, but one of them passed away 30 minutes ago. My face went dark enough to block out the sun. Dead. One of my people. Dead. Now, did I care because I'm a compassionate leader who values human life? Sure. Yeah, let's go with that. But also, and more urgently, that man was a perpetual bond. 1 silver coin per day. 365 per year. For decades. And now that revenue stream was gone. Permanently closed. Account terminated. The other one, I growled through clenched teeth. You pump him full of the most expensive medicine that exists. I don't care if he never walks again. I don't care if he just lies there for the rest of his life. As long as he breathes, I will feed him until he's 90. A breathing cripple is worth infinitely more than a healthy corpse. Keep him alive. Why, yes, my lord. Baller was dabbing sweat off his forehead so fast his hand was blurring. And then, a horn. Outside. Not a happy horn. Not a dinner's ready horn. The kind of horn that makes your blood freeze. The emergency sentries I'd posted along the outer fence were blowing the highest level alarm they had. Enemy attack. Bandits. Prepare for battle. My hand went to my sword before my brain even caught up. 300 armed bandits. Coming for my town. My food. My people. My 6,000 silver coins a day. Coming for my money. Oh, Baron. You poor, stupid, one-eyed idiot. You think you're raiding a helpless refugee camp with no defenses? You have no idea that 2 days ago, I armed 500 men who would rather eat your face than lose their first paycheck. You brought 300 hyenas to a town full of wolves who just learned what a full stomach feels like. This is going to be fun. Midnight. Torches flickering along Greywood's perimeter. And 300 idiots about to have the worst night of their lives. Bloodblade Baron rode up on a horse, so skinny it looked embarrassed, squinted his one good eye at my wooden fence, and actually laughed. Charge. Burn it. Show these dirt farmers how the wilderness works. 300 screaming maniacs with rusty swords and spiked clubs came pouring out of the darkness, fully expecting my people to drop to their knees and beg for mercy. What they got instead was a sound that I personally found extremely satisfying. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Dozens of hand-sharpened wooden javelins came screaming out of the dark trenches and punched clean through the first wave of bandits like they were made of wet paper. A dozen guys went down before they even understood what happened. Blood spraying everywhere. Screams ripping through the night air. What the? It's a trap. Baron's one eye went very wide. Oh, you think? But the party was just getting started. Behind the fence, a wall of iron spear points rose up in the darkness like the teeth of some massive beast. Greywood Iron Guard. Formation. Old Wolf was standing at the front of the line, strapped head to toe in leather armor. Eyes so bloodshot they practically glowed red. He looked like a rabid animal that had been given a sword and told biting was also acceptable. See, here's what Baron didn't know. When those alarm horns blew, my 500 Iron Guard soldiers had been finishing their late-night snack. A special bonus meal I approved specifically for night patrol shifts, because well-fed soldiers fight better than hungry ones, and these guys were my investment protection. Every single one of them looked at the sleeping camp behind them, their wives, their kids, their half-built houses, the 5 copper coins waiting for them tomorrow morning, the meat porridge, the dignity, the first good thing that had ever happened in their garbage lives. And then they looked at the bandits coming to take all of it away. Not one man stepped back. Old Wolf raised his cross sword and screamed with the voice of a demon being exorcised. Lord Lorien gave us life. He gave us dignity. And now these sewer rats want our white bread, want to burn our houses. The Lord said, retreat 1 step, your whole family starves. Kill 1 bandit, 2 silver coins reward. Yeah, I said that. And I meant it. 2 silver per kill. Expensive? Maybe. But dead bandits can't come back for round 2, and my soldiers fighting like they're in a video game with a loot system was worth every penny. Kill. 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 500 ex-peasants charged into battle like medieval berserkers hopped up on righteous fury and good nutrition. They had 0 formal training. Couldn't tell a parry from a pirouette. Didn't know the first thing about night combat techniques. What they did have was sharpened iron weapons, full stomachs, and the kind of desperate rage that only comes from people who know exactly what it feels like to have nothing and would rather die than go back. Pete, sweet, nervous, always worried Pete, locked eyes with a huge bandit climbing over the fence. A guy twice his size with a face like a catcher's mitt. Pete didn't dodge, didn't flinch, didn't blink. He screamed, rammed his iron spear through the man's gut with both hands, and kept pushing until the guy hit the ground. Don't touch my porridge, you fat pig. And then, even though the bandit was clearly, obviously, very much dead, Pete stabbed him about 15 more times. Just to make absolutely sure. And possibly to make a point. And possibly because he'd gone slightly insane. The battlefield turned into a nightmare. For the bandits. Blood. Mud. Screaming. Body parts where body parts shouldn't be. Baron's 300 hardened killers were getting absolutely shredded by farmers with sharp sticks and murder in their eyes. The bandits were stumbling around in pure shock. These are peasants. These red-eyed psychos with weapons better than ours, who won't stop fighting even when they're bleeding, who are chasing us. These are supposed to be helpless refugees. Baron watched his men dropping like wheat in a hailstorm, and finally his one brain cell fired. Retreat. Fall back. They're real soldiers. Retreat where, exactly? That was me. Coming in from the side flank with a few dozen of my best guards on horseback, cutting off the escape route like a steel door slamming shut. My face was not happy, because scattered on the muddy battlefield, among the bandit corpses, were a few of my men. Iron Guard soldiers. My soldiers. Dead. And every single one of them was 1 silver coin per day that would never come back. Walking revenue streams, permanently terminated. Golden geese, slaughtered by worthless highway trash. I stared at Baron and his surviving men with the kind of cold fury that comes from a very specific place. The intersection of genuine anger and financial loss. Keep the leader alive. I want to know where he hid his money. I raised my sword, and my voice dropped to the temperature of a frozen lake. Everyone else? Not one survivor. Chop them into pieces. These mangy dogs dared to kill my my brave soldiers. Make them regret being born. You came to rob me, Baron? You came to take my food, my people, my daily income? You brought 300 hyenas to fight 500 wolves who are protecting the first meal they've ever loved. Worst business decision of your very short remaining life. The fight was over by 4 a.m. Scoreboard, 260-something bandits turned into permanent decorations on the muddy ground. 30-ish survivors, including one-eyed Baron himself, got their ankle tendons sliced and were tied to wooden posts in the town square like the world's worst piñatas. The air smelled like a butcher shop that exploded. 6,000 of my citizens were standing around in the torchlight, wide awake, staring at the prisoners with the kind of cold hatred that makes professional executioners uncomfortable. Old Wolf limped up to me. His left arm had a gash so deep I could see bone, and blood was dripping off his fingers onto the mud. But the maniac was standing at perfect attention, chest out, like he was at a military parade instead of bleeding out. My lord, the Iron Guard held the line. Not one bandit made it into camp. He dropped to one knee. Then his voice cracked. But we lost 15 brothers. 8 more badly wounded. 15. 15. My brain made a sound like a church bell getting hit with a sledgehammer. 15 dead soldiers meant 15 silver coins gone. Every morning. Forever. That's 5,475 silver coins per year. For decades. These bandits didn't just kill my men. They reached into my wallet and ripped out pages from my checkbook that I can never get back. This wasn't murder. This was financial terrorism. I turned around and stormed over to Baron, who was tied to a post, sweating bullets from pain and what I can only assume was the slow realization that he'd made a catastrophic career choice. Oh, noble Baron. He was shaking, trying to smile through a face full of blood. One look at my eyes, and whatever bravery he had left evaporated like spit on a campfire. I surrender. By noble tradition, I'll pay ransom. I know about a secret treasure in Red Leaf territory. I can. Treasure? I grabbed his greasy hair and yanked his head up so he had no choice but to look directly into my eyes. You stupid pig. Do you have any idea what you just did? You killed 15 of my citizens. You could drag the entire Red Leaf Castle to my doorstep, and it wouldn't cover what you owe me in future earnings. And before he could open his mouth to beg again, SHHH sword through the throat. Quick, clean, done. Blood sprayed all over my nice outfit. I didn't flinch. I kicked his body off the post like I was clearing trash from a doorway. Noble tradition? In Greywood, you touch my people. I don't care if you're a king. You die. Long live the Lord. 6,000 people erupted. The noise was deafening. To them, they'd just watched a nobleman personally execute a bandit leader to avenge common peasants. In their world, that doesn't happen. Ever. Lords don't care when peasants die. Lords don't get angry. Lords don't get revenge. I had just become more than a generous employer. I had become a full-blown religion. I handed my bloody sword to a guard, rubbed my temples, and didn't go to bed. Couldn't. Wouldn't. Instead, I dragged a wooden chair into the middle of the blood-soaked square and just sat there. Nobody came near me. Smart. I was radiating, approach and die, energy strong enough to keep wolves away. I sat in that chair, in the dark, surrounded by the smell of blood and torch fire, doing math in my head. 15 dead, plus the one from the construction accident earlier. 16 total losses. 16 permanent line items deleted from my daily income report. Minutes crawled by. The sky slowly turned from black to gray to pale gold. And then, first light of dawn. 6 a.m. Ding. Daily settlement complete. Deaths yesterday. 16. 1 from injury, 15 killed in battle. Current registered population. 6,285. Today's payout, 6,285 silver coins. I breathed in the cold morning air and let it burn my lungs. 6,285. Lost a chunk of meat. But the plate's still full. My shoulders dropped for the first time in 12 hours. The iron knot in my chest finally loosened. Yeah, 16 coins were gone forever. That hurt. That would always hurt. Every morning at 6 o'clock for the rest of my life. I'd see a number that was 16 lower than it should have been, and I'd remember exactly whose fault it was. But the core portfolio survived. 6,285 breathing, eating, building, loyal money generators, safe behind walls defended by soldiers who fight like demons for 5 coppers a day. I leaned back in my bloody chair, crossed my legs, and felt the corners of my mouth slowly curl into the most cold-blooded capitalist grin the medieval world had ever seen. The bandits came for my gold and got slaughtered. Baron bet his life against my bottom line and lost. And tomorrow morning at 6, the coins would fall again. And the morning after that. And the one after that. The machine keeps printing. The portfolio keeps growing. And now every bandit, lord, and knight within 100 miles knows. Touch Greywood, and the crazy Baron will personally shove a sword through your neck and not even bother wiping the blood off before breakfast. Cost of battle, 16 souls I'll never get back. Lesson learned, need more soldiers. Better walls. Sharper teeth. This was expensive tuition. But class is in session, and I am a very fast learner. My lord, what do we do with the 30-odd surviving bandits? Baller walked up, glaring at the prisoners like they were cockroaches wearing people costumes. Hang them all? or chop off their heads and stick them on the fence posts as a warning. Standard medieval options. Door number 1, rope. Door number 2, sword. Both ending in death. Both perfectly normal and expected. But as I stood there looking at these 30-something pathetic, pants-wetting, trembling bandits tied to posts, my brain did something beautiful. It asked a question. The system says, 1 silver coin per day for every legally registered, living citizen in my territory. So, what about slaves? Do slaves count? My heart started hammering so hard I thought my ribs would crack. Any other lord would kill these guys without blinking. They're bandits. They're dangerous. They eat food and produce nothing but problems. The obvious move is execution. But I'm not any other lord. I'm the guy who once considered registering a stray dog if the system would count it. Baller, bring me the registration ledger. My lord, I said bring me the ledger and a charcoal pen. Baller scrambled. The scribe came running with a fat stack of parchment. I walked up to the nearest bandit, a guy shaking so hard his teeth were chattering like a skeleton in a windstorm, and pointed at the page. Press your thumb here. And my lord, is this a confession form? I'll sign it. Please don't kill me. He jammed his bloody, muddy thumb onto the parchment so hard he almost ripped through it. Tears, snot, the whole package. I held my breath, stared at my system panel. 1 second, 2 seconds, ding. Legal slave registered citizen 1. Current population, 6,286. Holy SH, I couldn't help it. It just came out. My eyes lit up like twin supernovas. It worked. The system counts slaves. Enslaved bandits are valid revenue sources. Every single one of these murdering scumbags tied to my fence posts was worth 1 silver coin per day, every day, for as long as they breathed. I slowly turned around and looked at all 30-something prisoners. The fury on my face? Gone. Completely erased. Replaced by a smile so warm and enthusiastic that it somehow managed to be more terrifying than my anger. Kill them? Oh no, no, no. Baller, my dear old friend. We are merciful nobles. I walked over and actually dusted one bandit's shoulder, like he was an old friend who'd stumbled at a party. The light god teaches us to give lost souls a chance at redemption, doesn't he? The bandits froze. Their tear-streaked faces shifted from, please don't murder us, to wait. Is he letting us go? Hope flickered in their stupid little eyes. Oh, you sweet summer idiots. Pete, here. My lord. Pete came sprinting over like a golden retriever. Register every single one of them. Mark them as lifetime slave status. The hope on their faces was already starting to curdle. Good instincts. Then, my voice dropped to Arctic temperatures. Set up an iron wire fence at the quarry behind the mountain. 20 iron guard soldiers watching them around the clock. From today, every disgusting job in Greywood, sewer cleaning, the most dangerous rock blasting, the heaviest hauling, goes to them. Feed them 1 meal a day. Sawdust oat mush. Just enough so they don't die. Anyone slacks off? Whip dipped in salt water. The bandits' faces went from hopeful to gray to absolutely devastated in about 3 seconds flat. The emotional whiplash was almost funny. Almost. I leaned in close to the nearest one and smiled my most angelic smile. You should thank me. I just gave you a reason to live. Now get to the quarry and start burning off whatever usefulness is left in your miserable bodies. As long as you have a single breath, you will generate wealth for Greywood. Let me break down the economics of this masterpiece. Cost to feed 1 slave. Less than half a copper coin per day. 1 bowl of garbage tier oat slop that even a rat would complain about. Revenue per slave, 1 silver coin. 100 copper coins. Profit margin per bandit slave, approximately 20,000%. 20,000%. And they do all the jobs nobody else wants. Sewer mucking. Dynamite-adjacent rock splitting. Back-breaking hauling that shortens your lifespan. All the horrible stuff I'd normally have to pay good citizens 5 coppers a day to do. Now done for free by guys who tried to rob me. Baller was standing behind me, watching the whole thing, mouth slightly open, slowly swallowing like a man witnessing something he couldn't quite categorize. I could almost hear his thoughts. The traditional nobles just hang bandits. Quick, simple, done. But this lord who preaches mercy every other sentence. He somehow found a way that's 1,000 times more ruthless than execution. And he's smiling while he does it. And just like that, a disaster became a business opportunity. Those 15 dead soldiers still stung. They'd always sting. But the 33 new slaves would generate 33 silver coins per day, partially offsetting my losses, while simultaneously doing all the grunt work for free. And my brain was already racing ahead to the real revelation: bandits, enemy soldiers, prisoners of war, captured criminals, every violent idiot who'd ever try to mess with Greywood in the future. They weren't threats. They were free-range revenue walking straight into my registration book. Every enemy who attacked me was basically a silver coin volunteering to jump into my pocket. They just didn't know it yet. The more people attacked Greywood, the richer I got. Attack me with 100 men? That's 100 new slaves. 1,000. Thank you for the donation. I had accidentally created the most perverse military incentive in the history of economics. I wanted people to attack me. As long as my Iron Guard won, which, fed and armed and psycho as they were, seemed increasingly likely. Every battle was just a recruitment drive with extra steps. Bowler looked at me sideways as we walked back to the manor. "My lord, you are truly merciful, aren't I?" I said, grinning ear to ear. The light god would be so proud. Behind us, 33 brand-new lifetime employees were being dragged toward the quarry, sobbing. Each one worth a silver coin a day. Forever. Or at least until their bodies gave out. At which point I'd have squeezed every last koppa's worth of labor from them anyway. I hummed a little tune all the way back to my office. Being evil has never felt so efficient. Greywood woke up this morning to the sound of clang, 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 which, in my town, is basically an alarm clock that means progress is happening. On the east side of town, a dozen hastily built clay furnaces were belching smoke into the sky like tiny angry volcanoes. Because yours truly had a brilliant idea. See, a dumb lord would have just bought finished tools from the market at retail price like a sucker. But me? I went to the Red Leaf City black market, sweet-talked, overpaid, and borderline kidnapped 5 veteran blacksmiths and their apprentices, then bought a mountain of cheap raw iron. Why buy 100 axes when you can buy the EXE factory? By morning, 2,000 brand-new iron tools were sitting in the town square like a hardware store had exploded. Pickaxes, wood axes, shovels, hoes, all gleaming with that beautiful dark gray iron shine. Old Wolf picked up an iron axe and his hands started trembling like he was holding the Holy Grail. By the light god, this is free for me, and I get his reaction. In this world, iron is basically a luxury item. A normal peasant family that owns one rusty sickle treats it like a family heirloom, passing it down generation to generation like a precious jewel. These people have been working with sticks, sharpened rocks tied to branches, bone hoes, caveman stuff. They've been trying to build a town using Stone Age technology. And I just handed them the Iron Age on a silver platter. 2,000 pieces of it. Baller gave Old Wolf his axe with a dreamy look on his face, like even he couldn't believe this was real. Lord Lorien says stone tools are too slow. Time is life. With these, you can build 10 houses a day. Don't disappoint him. Old Wolf took a deep breath, raised that iron axe over his head, and slammed it into a thick pine log. Crack. The blade sank deep into the wood like a hot knife through warm butter. Wood chips flew everywhere. One clean, devastating hit. With a stone axe, that same swing would have left a sad little white scratch mark. Maybe a dent if you were lucky. Sweet mother of, it's like cutting butter, some young guy holding a new iron shovel screamed, hugging it like a girlfriend. I could dig a moat with this thing in one day. Work? For the Lord, Old Wolf howled, and my entire construction army, now armed with actual metal tools instead of pointy sticks, went absolutely feral, stampeding into the forest like a herd of extremely motivated buffalo. I watched from a hilltop as trees started falling at triple speed. Triple. What used to take all day now took a couple hours. The sound of iron hitting wood echoed across the landscape like a symphony of productivity. Baller stood behind me, physically wincing at the expense. My lord, 2,000 iron tools. That's 500 gold coins you just spent. 500, I snorted. Baller, you're thinking too small. It's late autumn. Winter hits in 1 month. When snow blocks the mountain passes, the trade roads die. No caravans. No merchants. I could have a room full of silver and not be able to buy a single grain of wheat. His face went white. You mean, we need our own food supply? Buying grain is a band-aid. Farming is the cure. I pointed at the massive stretches of wild, untouched land surrounding the town. In 2 weeks, I need houses finished and all that wasteland plowed and planted with winter wheat, plus windbreak greenhouses. Because if even one of my 6,000 people starves or freezes this winter, I stopped myself before saying, that's a permanent reduction in daily revenue. That would be a tragedy. I finished, very nobly. 500 gold coins sounds insane. But in my head, that's barely 8 days of income. 8 days. And if these iron tools mean my people survive the winter with 0 deaths, that investment pays for itself 1,000 times over. I'd forge them golden shovels if it kept the headcount stable. Then a guard came sprinting up the hill, gasping for air. My lord, a merchant caravan just arrived at the town gates. But they're not selling food. It's the Black Crow slave trading company from Red Leaf City. Slave traders? My eyes lit up like someone had just told me there was a buy one get one free sale on human beings. Let's go? Maybe I can pick up a few money trees that haven't been planted yet, because in Lorian's world, every person with a heartbeat is a daily deposit. Slaves, refugees, bandits, babies, doesn't matter. If it breathes and I can register it, it's mine. And some fool just drove a cart full of unregistered heartbeats right to my front door. Black Friday came early this year, baby. Time to go shopping. A slave caravan rolled up to my front door. Big iron cage carts, reeking of blood and misery, run by a sweaty fat man from the Black Crow slave company who smiled at me like I was his favorite customer at a used car lot. Noble Baron, I heard you're building like crazy. Surely you need some obedient, disposable labor. I walked up to the cages and almost gagged. Inside were a few dozen slaves, beaten up orc laborers, bankrupt farmers sold into bondage. The usual medieval human trafficking menu. But they looked terrible. Skinny, injured, half dead. I did the math in my head instantly. Most of these guys wouldn't survive until 6 a.m. tomorrow. If they died before the system payout, they were literally worth negative money. I'd be paying for corpses. Too thin, too damaged. Pass. I waved my hand and started to walk away. Wait, my lord. I have something special. The fat man scrambled to the last cart, which was covered in black cloth like some kind of dramatic magic trick, and yanked the cover off. Inside the cage sat a woman. Torn linen robes. Wild silver hair. Actual silver, not gray. A face so beautiful that even caked in dirt and grime, it hit like a punch. Pointed ears, half-elf blood, and eyes like green emeralds that screamed, I am smarter than everyone here and I hate all of you. What's this? A half-elf bed warmer? She can't build houses or plow fields. I raised an eyebrow. Oh no, my lord. The fat man leaned in, whispering like he was sharing state secrets. Her name is Alara. She was a senior plant science scholar at the Violet Magic Academy in the capital, got kicked out and enslaved because she has half-elf blood, and she published what the church called heretical writings. Heretical writings? What did she say? Insult the light god? Alara, sitting in her cage, looked at me with the coldest death stare I'd ever received from a person behind bars. Even as a slave, this woman had more dignity than most kings. She opened her mouth and spoke like she was delivering a lecture, not begging for her life. I proved, in a peer-reviewed paper, that if you compost human and animal waste at high temperatures and spread it on farmland, wheat yields increase by over 200%. Instead of doing what the church morons do, standing in fields chanting useless prayers at dirt, every guard around me recoiled. Baller started making crosses on his chest so fast his hand was blurring. Dear God. Spreading filth on food? This woman has been possessed by demons. See, in medieval brainland, crops grow because God feels generous, and poop is the most unholy substance in existence. Suggesting they belong together is like telling a modern person that licking electrical outlets cures cancer. Pure crazy talk. Maximum heresy. But I was frozen solid. Not from disgust. From revelation. My brain was doing the calculation at light speed. Human and animal waste. High-temperature composting. Double the crop yield. I have 6,000 people. 6,000 people eating white flour and salted pork every single day. And what goes in must come out. I was sitting on mountains of organic waste that I'd been desperately trying to get rid of. The whole toilet and sewer system I'd built was basically a poop management crisis. But this woman, this beautiful, angry, silver-haired genius, was telling me that my biggest problem was actually my biggest asset. All that poop wasn't waste. It was fertilizer. Free fertilizer. Industrial quantities of crop-doubling miracle fuel produced daily by my 6,000 citizens as a byproduct of keeping them alive. Everyone else saw a crazy witch who played with poop. I saw the medieval equivalent of a Nobel Prize-winning agricultural scientist. She was basically this world's version of the guy who invented modern farming, except prettier and angrier and locked in a cage. With her knowledge, I wouldn't just feed 6,000 people. I could feed 60,000, 600,000. My territory could become the breadbasket of the entire continent, and every single new person I fed would be another silver coin per day forever. She was the missing piece, the key that turned my money machine into a money empire. How much? My voice was shaking, actually trembling, like a man proposing to the love of his life. The fat slave trader misread my stuttering as disgust and got nervous. Well, my lord, she is a troublesome heretic, but she's half-elf, pretty face. 5 gold coins. And I'll throw in a cage of the healthier laborers as a package deal? Wham! I slammed a money bag into his chest so hard, he stumbled backward and nearly fell butt first into the mud. 1,000 silver coins. 10 gold. Right now. Double his asking price. I didn't haggle, didn't negotiate, didn't blink. Every second this woman spent in a cage was a second my agricultural revolution wasn't happening. Open the cage. Immediately, the fat man's eyes went the size of dinner plates. He fumbled with the keys, hands shaking, probably wondering if he should have asked for more. Alara stared at me through the bars, suspicious, defiant, clearly trying to figure out what fresh hell I had planned for her. Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea. You're not going to a bed. You're not going to a field. You're going to an office. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced to absolutely nobody in particular, grinning like a maniac, meet Greywood's brand new chief agricultural officer. Everyone around me, the guards, the slave trader, even Alara herself, stared at me like I'd lost my mind. A heretic poop scientist half-elf, promoted from cage to cabinet position in 30 seconds flat. But they didn't understand. None of them understood. I had 6,000 people generating 6,000 silver coins a day. I had iron tools. I had soldiers. I had builders. And now I had the one person alive who could turn literal crap into food. The money machine just got an upgrade. That evening, my new chief agricultural officer was sitting by the fireplace in my office, freshly washed, wearing clean clothes for probably the first time in months. A plate of hot roasted lamb chops and white bread was steaming in front of her. She didn't touch it, just sat there staring at me with those green laser beam eyes like I was a bomb that might go off. Eat. It's not poisoned. I was busy sketching a land development map on cheap parchment, not even looking at her. What do you want from me, Baron? Her voice was cold as a mountain stream. Beautiful and terrifying. If you bought me to satisfy some disgusting nobleman fetish, I suggest you give up now. I will bite your throat out. Fair assumption. In this world, a pretty half-elf female slave usually gets a fate worse than death. She'd clearly been mentally preparing for the worst. Your body doesn't interest me, Miss Alara. I still didn't look up. Or rather, I have zero interest in physical transactions that don't generate surplus value. Yeah, I actually said that. I rejected a beautiful half-elf woman using economic terminology. I am who I am. What I want to know, I tapped my sketch, is whether your composting theory can get 2,000 acres of winter wheat sprouting before the frost hits. If I give you unlimited manpower, she froze. Actually froze, mid-death stare. You don't think it's blasphemy? You're not disgusted? Disgusted? Being hungry is the real sin. Being poor is the real filth, I snorted. I don't care if you use manure, black magic, or dragon droppings. I want grain. Grain feeds people, and people bring me prosperity. Almost slipped there. If you can grow food, every sewage pit in Greywood is yours. Full creative control. Go nuts. Something changed in her eyes. For the first time, that icy armor cracked. She'd spent her entire academic career being mocked, expelled, and imprisoned for her research. Every scholar called her crazy. The church called her a heretic. The academy threw her out. And now some random broke baron in the middle of nowhere was saying, "Yeah, your poop science sounds great. Here's your department." But she wasn't going to melt that easily. She threw up a wall. "This would cost a fortune," she said, testing me. "Composting needs specialized fermentation pits. Clearing wasteland needs tools. Premium winter wheat seeds have to be sourced from major cities. We're talking hundreds of gold coins. You're an exiled baron. You can't possibly afford. I held up one finger, looked at the clock on the wall. 5:58, 5:59. Hold that thought. I stood up, cracked my neck, and checked my system panel. Population after yesterday's slave purchase, 6,352. Tick, tick, tick. 6 a.m. Ding. Daily settlement. Population, 6,352. Payout, 6,352 silver coins. I turned around, looked dead into Alara's suspicious green eyes, and smiled the smile of a man who's about to ruin someone's entire understanding of reality. You said you need hundreds of gold coins? I activated the withdrawal. WHOSH. The air ripped open above my dining table, and a tsunami of silver came pouring out like God had tipped over a bucket the size of a house. Thousands, tens of thousands of silver coins came crashing down onto the oak table in a blinding, deafening, absolutely ridiculous waterfall of metal. The table groaned. Coins overflowed the edges like a silver river, cascading onto the floor, rolling across the room, piling up at Alara's feet until she was standing ankle-deep in money. The noise was unreal, like being inside a bell that wouldn't stop ringing. Alara's knife and fork clattered to the ground. Her jaw dropped so far I thought it might detach. Those cool, composed, scholarly emerald eyes went full saucer. Wide, wider, widest. Every molecule of her half-elf intellectual superiority evaporated in approximately 0.3 seconds. What kind of spatial magic is this? By the light god, did you rob the Imperial Treasury? She was screaming. The Ice Queen was screaming. The woman who'd calmly told the church to go screw itself was having a complete mental breakdown because a waterfall of money materialized in her dinner. I picked up a fistful of coins, casually, like grabbing popcorn, and dropped them onto her plate. Clink, 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 right on top of her uneaten lamb chops. Forget the light god, Alara. In this room, money is the only religion. What you're looking at is tens of thousands of silver coins. Hundreds of gold. I paused for effect. And this is my pocket change for a few days. I leaned in close enough that she had to tilt her head back, and stared into her eyes with every ounce of insane conviction I had. Effective immediately, you are the head of Greywood's Department of Agriculture and Infrastructure Development. Your budget? Unlimited. Need workers? Done. Need money? Done. I want your heresy planted in every inch of soil in this territory. I want your poop magic covering this land like a blanket. Make it grow. Alara stood there, knee-deep in silver coins, staring at me like I was a creature from another dimension. Which, technically, I was. And then something beautiful happened. The ice melted. The suspicion died. And in its place, in those gorgeous green eyes, a fire lit up. Not romance. Sorry, this isn't that kind of story, but the fire of a scientist who's been told, your life's work is valid, and here's a blank check. She straightened her back, lifted her skirt hem out of the coin pile, and performed a perfect scholar's bow. Graceful, elegant, like a queen accepting a crown. As you wish, my lord. Her voice was steady now, calm, but underneath, pure academic madness. I will turn Greywood's sewage pits into the most fertile gold mines on the entire continent of Nolan, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I hired a genius. Not with kind words, not with promises, not with respect for her craft, though I genuinely did respect it. I hired her by literally burying her in money until her objections drowned. Total recruitment cost, 10 gold coins for purchase, plus 1 extremely dramatic silver coin waterfall for motivation. Expected return, an agricultural revolution that would let me feed not 6,000, but 60,000, 600,000, maybe 1,000,000 people. Every one of them worth 1 silver coin per day. The poop scientist and the money psychopath, working together to build an empire. This is the most beautiful business partnership in the history of civilization. Today, Greywood smelled like, well, let's just say if smell had a final boss, my town was fighting it. Down at the sewage pits, Alara was standing over a dozen massive pools of fermented human waste, poking the black-brown sludge with a stick like a witch stirring her cauldron, eyes glowing with scientific ecstasy. Perfect fermentation, temperature optimal, all parasites and eggs eliminated by the heat. She spun around to face 2,000 farmers standing about 50 feet away, every single one of them pinching their noses shut, looking at her like she'd asked them to eat a spider. Well, what are you waiting for? Dig this fertilizer out, load it into wheelbarrows, and spread it across the 2,000 acres of cleared land. We need winter wheat planted before the first frost. Nobody moved. Not a finger. Not a toe. Old Wolf, bless his loyal heart, forced himself to step forward. Lady Alara, we're not being lazy, but this is poop. If we put this cursed filth into holy soil, nothing will grow. We'll summon plague. The light god will punish us all. Ignorance. Stupidity. Alara was shaking with rage. This is premium nitrogen-rich fertilizer. It'll make your wheat stalks grow as thick as your thumb. Are you going to trust me, an actual scientist, or those money-grubbing con artists at the church? The farmers shuffled their feet, looked at each other, looked at the poop, looked at Alara, looked at the poop again. Nope, nobody was touching it. 2,000 men versus one angry half-elf, and the poop was winning. Medieval superstition, 1. Science, 0. And that's when I showed up. I rode in on a black horse wearing a bear fur coat because if you're going to give a speech about poop, you should at least look cool doing it. I jumped off, walked straight to the edge of the cesspit, and took a deep breath. Massive mistake. My stomach tried to launch my dinner through my nostrils. The smell was so powerful it felt like being punched in the face by a fist made of sewage. Every cell in my body screamed abort, abort, abort. But I held it, swallowed hard, kept my face like stone. Not one flinch. This was a leadership moment, and I was not going to blow it by gagging in front of my people. I turned around, drew my sword, pointed it at the giant pool of processed human excrement, and screamed, "Cursed? Unholy? Are you all blind?" 2,000 people snapped to attention. In other territories, yes, this is waste. But in GREYWOD, this is a sacred gift, a divine blessing from the light God himself, bestowed upon me, Lorian Wisteria. I call it the holy harvest soil, dead. Silence. Alara stared at me with an expression I can only describe as impressed horror. She, a real scientist, had just watched me rebrand fermented human feces as a religious artifact with a straight face. I didn't care. Logic wouldn't work on these people. Facts wouldn't work. 10 years of Alara's research papers hadn't worked. But you know what always works in medieval land? Slapping God's name on something and adding a cash bonus. Tell me, do you want to eat white bread all winter? Do you want your children to stop chewing on tree bark? Yes, my lord, Old Wolf shouted, eyes already going red. Then shovel this holy soil into every inch of farmland. Not one drop left behind. I snapped my fingers. BLR. Read the decree. The old man came running with a big wooden box, shouting at the top of his lungs. By order of the Lord, whichever team hauls the most holy harvest soil, today gets an extra half-pound of salted pork in tonight's porridge. And, for every 10 full cart loads, a bonus of 1 copper coin. I watched 2,000 brains short-circuit in real time. Extra meat? And money? 4. Shoveling poop? You could literally see the moment where medieval superstition met medieval poverty and got absolutely steamrolled. Cursed by demons? Who cares? Summon plague? Whatever. Anger the light god? He can wait. There's meat and money on the line, baby. Out of my way. First squad gets the first cart. Old Wolf transformed into a poop-collecting maniac, diving at the cesspit with his iron shovel like it was full of diamonds. Old Wolf, you cheater. Second squad, charge. Scrape the bottom. Don't leave a speck. Pete, sweet, crazy Pete, actually took off his shirt and wrapped it around his wheelbarrow to make sure not a single drop of precious sewage leaked out during transport. The man was protecting human waste like it was liquid gold. Within 10 minutes, 2,000 grown men were physically fighting each other over who got to shovel the most poop. Pushing, shoving, screaming, eyes glowing green with greed, nearly starting fistfights over feces. Alara stood off to the side, watching this spectacle, her entire worldview shattering in slow motion. This woman had spent a decade writing papers, giving lectures, begging the academic establishment to take composting seriously. She'd been mocked, stripped of her title, sold into slavery, all because she tried to explain the science. And I'd just accomplished what 10 years of scholarship couldn't. With one made-up religious title and a few pennies. I strolled over to her, leaned in close, and whispered, See that, Professor? What faith can't solve, profit can. Offer them enough meat and money, and these guys would lick the cesspit cleaner than a dinner plate. Elara stared at me, then at the 2,000 men warring over manure, then back at me. I could see it in her eyes, the exact moment she realized she hadn't been hired by a lunatic. She'd been hired by something far more dangerous. A man who understood that in a world of starving people, economics beats theology every single time. The holy harvest soil of Greywood. Patent pending. All rights reserved. Made from 100% organic, locally sourced, artisanal human waste. Coming soon to 2,000 acres of farmland near you. 5:55 a.m. Back of the mountain. The quarry. While I was cozy in my office, sipping hot goat milk waiting for payday, my 34 bandit slaves were waking up to another beautiful day in paradise. And by paradise, I mean a freezing rock pit where they smash boulders until their arms fall off. Scarface Kyle, one of Bloodblade Baron's former lieutenants, was curled up in a windbreak shed, shivering in rags so thin they were basically suggestions of clothing. 2 weeks ago, this man was screaming, "Kill, steal, meat," while charging at my town with a rusty sword. Now he was property, my property, with a slave brand and a pickaxe and approximately 0 career options. Based on his 15 years of bandit experience, Kyle figured he had about 2 weeks to live. That's standard for war prisoner slaves in this world. Work them to death, feed them garbage, beat them daily, done. Quick and efficient disposal of human waste. The medieval version of a paper shredder. Wake up, you mud-eating scum. Sunrise soon. Time to work. Iron Guard soldiers banged on the fence. Kyle dragged himself upright, bracing for the whip. But instead of leather and pain, the soldiers walked in carrying 2 large wooden buckets. Thunk. Set them down. Lord Lorien is merciful. Temperature dropped last night, so you worthless maggots get extra rations. 1 bowl of hot oat mush each. Kyle's brain stopped working. He shuffled into the line, hands shaking, and received his bowl. It was hot. Actually, genuinely hot. Steam rising. Warmth radiating through the wooden bowl into his frozen fingers. And the mush. Yeah, it was the cheapest, nastiest black oat slop imaginable. Tasted like chewing wet sand. But there were no rocks in it. No wood chips. No mystery objects that crack your teeth. Just edible food. Warm, edible food. For a man who'd spent years eating whatever dead thing he found on the side of the road, this was a Michelin star meal. Oh God, the bandit next to Kyle was inhaling his portion while openly weeping. Is this a last meal? Are they killing us today? Because this is the nicest thing anyone's done to me in my entire criminal career. Finish eating and get to the rock face. The guard screamed. Lord's orders. Anyone caught slacking today gets thrown into the sewage pit for a swim tomorrow. Kyle licked his bowl clean. Not a speck left. Then he picked up his iron pickaxe and walked toward the cliff wall. And somewhere between the shed and the rocks, this career criminal, this veteran highway murderer, this man who'd spent his entire adult life robbing and killing, had an epiphany. Being a bandit sucked. Every day on the road was pure terror, never knowing where the next meal came from. Sleeping in ditches. Getting chased by soldiers who wanted your head as a promotion bonus. One bad day, and you're dead in a ditch with crows eating your eyeballs. But being a slave in Greywood? Sure, the work was brutal. Sure, there was no freedom. But he ate every day. Hot food. And the shed had a fire pit. And he'd heard rumors that the crazy Baron was building heated greenhouses for winter, which meant he might not even freeze to death. Screw freedom, Kyle screamed, swinging his pickaxe into the rock face with the fury of a man who'd just discovered job security. I'm never leaving. I will smash rocks in this quarry until I die. Sparks flew. Stone cracked. Kyle was working harder than my paid citizens. With more enthusiasm. More dedication. More raw, grateful, survival-fueled energy. The man had become voluntarily, enthusiastically enslaved. Not through chains, but through the revolutionary concept of regular meals. Meanwhile, in my office, I watched the clock tick over to 6. Ding. Population, 6,381, including 34 lifetime slaves. Payout, 6,381 silver coins. I took a sip of warm milk and smiled. Let's review the economics of my slave operation, shall we? 34 bandits. Daily food cost. Less than 2 copper coins total. That's basically free. I was spending more on napkins. Daily revenue from 34 slaves, 34 silver coins, 3,400 copper coins. Plus they were producing tons of high-quality building stone. For free. All day. Every day. Without complaint. In fact, with enthusiasm, because the alternative was starving in a ditch somewhere. Zero wages. Near zero food costs. Maximum output. Positive morale because apparently, not dying, is a powerful motivator. This was the most perfect financial product ever created. Better than stocks. Better than bonds. Better than real estate. A self-maintaining, self-motivated, gratitude-powered income generator that also did manual labor. I stroked my chin, and a thought bloomed in my head that would make any normal nobleman call an exorcist. I need to figure out how to lure more bandits into attacking Greywood. Think about it. Every bandit who attacks me either dies, removing a threat, or gets captured, becoming a free money printer and free labor. It's the only investment strategy where your enemies literally deliver the product to your door, pre-motivated and ready for processing. Other lords pray that bandits avoid their territory. I was sitting here brainstorming marketing campaigns to attract them. Come raid Greywood. We have food and no walls. I could put up signs on the highway. Maybe take out an ad in whatever the medieval equivalent of a newspaper was. Every other nobleman on this continent would hear my thoughts and assume I'd been possessed by a demon lord. And they'd be wrong. I'm possessed by something far more dangerous. Compound interest. Greywood was looking good. Like, actually good. Not good for a garbage dump. Good. Genuinely. Objectively. Wait, this used to be a mud pit. Good. Hundreds of neat wooden houses standing in rows. Sure, they weren't marble palaces, but the roofs were thick with thatch. Every wall crack was sealed with windproof clay, and most importantly, nobody was sleeping in dirt anymore. Alara's 2,000 acres of winter wheat were planted and covered in her scientifically blessed holy poop fertilizer. And behind the town, like something from a science fiction novel that accidentally landed in the Middle Ages, sat dozens of makeshift greenhouses, wood frames wrapped in oiled canvas with underground heating channels connected to fire pits. My medieval peasants had built a heated greenhouse network, in a world where people still thought bathing invited demons. I was so proud I could have cried. But winter was breathing down our necks. The air had teeth now. First snow could hit any day, and I still needed one massive final shopping spree. Right on cue, a huge merchant caravan rolled through the gates. Not some sad little two-card operation like Hobby. This was the real deal. Dozens of wagons, armed mercenary guards, flying a flag with a golden eagle on it. The Gold Eagle Trading Company, the biggest commercial operation in the entire region. Their boss was a man named Mars. Bald, beer belly the size of a watermelon, draped in silk robes that probably cost more than my entire town did a month ago. Sitting in his luxury cart like a king, radiating that special kind of arrogance only fat rich guys can pull off. His assistant had briefed him on the way. Sir, that broke baron supposedly has some cash from selling his mother's magic amulet. Our winter supplies are life or death for his refugees. Should we mark up prices double? Mars had laughed. Double? You amateur. He's desperate. It's about to snow. These supplies are the difference between his people living or dying. Mark it up 5 times. He'll pay or they'll freeze. No choice. Classic medieval price gouging. Classy. But then Mars stepped off his cart, and his entire evil plan crashed into a wall called reality. No stinking mud pits. No skeleton refugees. The roads were paved with crushed stone. Houses stood in neat lines. In the distance, thousands of well-fed, rosy-cheeked workers were building those weird greenhouse things with genuine enthusiasm. And in the center of town, this was my favorite part, 500 Iron Guard soldiers stood in perfect formation, full leather armor, iron spears gleaming, and in their eyes, the cold, dead stare of men who had recently killed a lot of people and were fully prepared to do it again at the slightest provocation. Mars's hired mercenaries instinctively gripped their weapons tighter. Professional killers, nervous. That's when you know your army looks scary. I could practically hear Mars's internal monologue crashing. This is supposed to be a bankrupt exiles refugee camp? This looks like a military base that's been eating its vitamins. Welcome to Greywood, Manager Mars. I strolled out, surrounded by my Iron Guard, smiling pleasantly. Mars swallowed so hard his entire neck rippled. The arrogance evaporated like morning dew. Suddenly, he was all smiles and bowing. "Oh, praise the light god. Noble Baron Lorien, the Gold Eagle Company has brought your most urgently needed winter supplies. 300 carts of grain, 2,000 sheepskin coats, 1,000 pounds of salt. As for the price," he paused, still debating whether to try the 5 times markup while staring at 500 spears. "Save it, Mars." I snapped my fingers. Baller came rolling up with a dozen workers pushing 4 heavy wheelbarrows. They pulled off the oilcloth covers, and 4 mountains of silver, 40,000 coins, stacked and gleaming in the pale winter sunlight like something out of a dragon's fever dream. 400 gold coins in raw silver, sitting in wheelbarrows, in a town square, in broad daylight, like it was nothing. Mars's heart actually stuttered. I could see it. His left eye twitched, his breathing stopped, his brain blue-screened. This man had been in the trading business his entire life and had never seen this much cash in one place. In this world, big deals are done with IOUs and credit notes. Nobody just shows up with 40,000 physical coins. That's psychopath behavior. Which, fair. 400 gold and silver. Right here, right now. I leaned in close enough to whisper, and my voice went low and dangerous. "I don't care what your stuff normally costs. This money buys everything you brought today. Every grain sack, every coat, every pound of salt, the carts, the horses pulling the carts, all of it." Mars's calculator brain sputtered to life. He'd been planning to charge 5 times the normal price. What I was offering was actually higher than his most outrageous fantasy markup, by 20%. He was getting overpaid to not scam me. His scam had been out-scammed by my generosity. "But there's more." I patted his stiff shoulder. "This is also a down payment. Starting today, I want an exclusive supply contract with Gold Eagle." My eyes were doing the thing again. The burning thing. The thing that makes merchants either run or kneel. "I don't care how you do it. Go to other cities. Go to the Orc borderlands if you have to. Bring me slaves. Bring me refugees. Bring me raw iron. Bring me any animal that can breed. If you can deliver it to Greywood, I will buy it. All of it. Forever. Do you understand?" Mars looked at the silver mountains. Looked at my eyes. Looked at the silver mountains again. Did whatever math fat merchant brains do. Then his knees buckled and he hit the ground like a bag of expensive silk, every ounce of his considerable body fat jiggling with pure financial ecstasy. "As you command, my lord." More radiant than gold itself. "The Gold Eagle Trading Company is your servant. Your dog. Your loyal, obedient, very well-compensated dog. Beautiful." Another merchant added to the collection. Between Hobby for small stuff, Carl for refugee deliveries, and now Mars for industrial-scale supply chains, I was building a logistics empire that would make Amazon jealous. I turned around, watched the massive caravan unloading, sheepskin coats, grain, salt, all flowing into my warehouses, and breathed in the cold winter air. Done. 6,000 citizens. Federal housed. Heated. Clothed. Fertilized fields ready for spring. Heated greenhouses for the brutal months. A private army. A pet scientist. 3 terrified merchants on permanent retainer. And a quarry full of bandits who were grateful to be alive. Winter could come. Let it howl. Let it dump 10 feet of snow. Let it freeze everything solid. My money machine was insulated, winterized, and locked in. 6,000 silver coins, every morning, like clockwork. Through every blizzard, every frost, every dark frozen night. And when spring arrived, when the snow melted, the wheat sprouted, the trade roads reopened, and the rest of the continent was still recovering from the cold, Greywood would be there, waiting, with full granaries, a trained army, fertile fields, and a baron with more money than God. The world wasn't ready for what was coming. Medieval capitalism meets infrastructure obsession meets unlimited cheat code funding. Greywood was about to go from mudtown nobody's heard of to the place that makes empires nervous. And it all started with one boot stepping in donkey poop. Mid-November. The first blizzard of the year hit like a freight train made of frozen knives. Wind screaming. Snow coming down sideways. The kind of night that, across this entire continent, has a lovely nickname. Death's Knock Night. Because every year, when the first big snow arrives, hundreds, sometimes thousands, of peasants in other territories just quietly freeze to death in their sleep. They go to bed in their leaky shacks and never wake up. Their lords find the bodies in the morning, shrug, update the census, move on. Standard medieval winter. Totally normal. Nobody even blinks. But not in MY Town. Oh no, not in Greywood. Over in House 37, one of the hundreds of brand new cabins my people built, a 50-something peasant woman named Martha jolted awake from a nightmare. She dreamed her old straw roof collapsed under the snow and she and her son froze to death in the mud. Classic trauma flashback. That nightmare had been her reality for decades. Pete, my baby, wake up. Don't fall asleep. If you sleep, you die. She was flailing around, grabbing at imaginary straw to pile on her son, full panic mode. Then she opened her eyes. No freezing wind. No leaking roof. No snow falling on her face. She was lying on a wooden bed. An actual bed, with thick dry hay and fresh linen sheets, covered by a massive sheepskin coat, so warm and heavy it could probably insulate a refrigerator. The kind of coat that even rich merchants in Red Leaf City would consider a luxury item. And in the middle of the room, a stone fireplace, a real fireplace, was crackling away, burning quality black pine logs, filling the sealed, draft-proof cabin with so much heat that it was almost too warm. Her son Pete, my boy Pete, Iron Guard soldier, porridge defending maniac, veteran of the Battle of the Bandits, was sitting by the fire, casually roasting a palm-sized slab of fatty salted pork on an iron skewer. Grease was sizzling, dripping into the flames, and the entire room smelled like a five-star restaurant that only served one dish, and that dish was incredible. Mom? Why are you up? Martha reached out with her cracked, weathered hands and touched the sheepskin coat like she was touching a holy relic. Then the tears came. Full waterfall. Pete, am I dreaming? Every winter we couldn't even afford to burn dried cow dung. This coat. This meat. Where did all this come from, Mom? Don't you remember? Lord Lorien distributed winter supplies. Every household got sheepskin coats and firewood. And even though construction stopped for the blizzard, Iron Guard soldiers still get full pay. He said we worked hard building houses, so this is our reward. Pete handed her a chunk of roasted pork stuffed into soft white bread, a medieval hot pocket. Basically, in his eyes went that special kind of intense that my citizens get when they talk about me. The look that's 1 degree away from starting a religion. You know what the Lord said yesterday at the square, Mom? Pete cleared his throat and did his best impression of me, apparently nailing the arrogant yet oddly caring voice. He said, "Snow days mean stay inside. If you're bored, go make babies with your wives. More children means more prosperity for Greywood." Yeah, I said that. My exact words. Because babies are long-term investments. 70+ years of daily silver coins per baby. Every new birth is a retirement fund that cries a lot. I needed these people reproducing. Winter was the perfect time. Nothing else to do, stuck indoors, warm fireplace, full bellies. The conditions were ideal for population growth. Honestly, I should have handed out scented candles and romantic music too. Maximize the baby-making efficiency. Pete continued my quote, and if anyone freezes to death on MY territory, that is a massive waste of Greywood property. I will go to hell itself to drag them back and whip them for dying without permission. Martha slid off her warm bed, knelt on the heated wooden floor, clasped her hands together toward my manor, and sobbed. What has the Red Leaf Viscount ever given us? Nothing. What has the Light Church ever done? Nothing. Not one bowl of hot soup. Not one. Her forehead hit the floor with a thunk. Pete, you listen to me. Lord Lorien is not a nobleman. He is a god wearing human skin. If he ever tells you to go fight a dragon, you grab that dragon by the teeth, and you bite off a scale for him. Do you hear me? Yes, Mother. And that exact scene, was playing out in hundreds of cabins across Greywood simultaneously. Families huddled around warm fireplaces, eating roasted meat, wrapped in sheepskin, crying grateful tears while a blizzard that would have killed them all 6 months ago raged uselessly outside walls that wouldn't let a snowflake through. Meanwhile, I was in my office, wrapped in my own bear fur coat, sipping warm spiced wine, listening to the wind howl outside, and checking my system panel with the calm satisfaction of a man whose stock portfolio just survived a market crash. Every house was heated. Every belly was full. Every body was wrapped in warm clothes. Population loss projection for the winter, 0. Other lords would wake up tomorrow and count their dead. Dozens. Hundreds, maybe. I would wake up tomorrow and count my coins. Same number as yesterday, not one less. 6,381 silver, guaranteed, every morning at 6 a.m., blizzard or sunshine. And somewhere in those warm little cabins, in the romantic glow of crackling fireplaces, with full stomachs and nothing else to do on a snowy night, my citizens were following orders and making babies. Future revenue, growing in the womb, arriving in approximately 9 months, pre-registered for daily payouts the moment they take their first breath. I raised my wine cup to the blizzard rattling my windows. Do your worst, winter. Every single coin is accounted for. Other lords fear the snow. I invested in insulation, and the dividends were going to be adorable. Next morning, snow up to my knees. The entire territory looked like someone dumped 1 billion tons of white frosting over everything. Dead silent. Nothing moving. The whole world looked like it had given up and gone to sleep. But behind my town, inside the fenced-off agricultural zone that Alara had claimed as her personal science kingdom, something impossible was happening. I pushed open the heavy wooden door of Greenhouse 1 and got slapped in the face by a wall of warm, humid air. Outside, -15 degrees, frozen hellscape, wind that cuts through bone. Inside, tropical vacation for dirt. The greenhouse itself was. Look, it wasn't pretty. The roof was wood planks and canvas soaked in pig fat. The light coming through was dim and greasy. Architecturally, it looked like a barn that had been built by someone who'd had a barn described to them, but never actually seen one. But underneath was my masterpiece. A maze of underground heating channels connected to fire pits, pumping warm air through the floor like medieval central heating. I'd sketched the design on a napkin at 2 a.m. one night, then made thousands of workers dig it out in a week. Alara was kneeling in the dirt when I walked in, her silver hair falling over her face, those elegant half-elf fingers carefully brushing away a layer of her precious holy poop soil. And there it was, 2 tiny green leaves, pushing through the dark earth. Baby wheat sprouts, fragile as glass, alive as fire, growing in the middle of a blizzard like they hadn't gotten the memo that it was supposed to be winter. They sprouted. They actually sprouted. Alara was shaking, full body trembling. Not from cold, from the kind of emotion that only hits a scientist when their life's work is proven right after everyone told them they were crazy. Growing wheat in winter, creating spring inside a snowstorm. My composting method combined with his geothermal greenhouse. This could rewrite the entire agricultural history of the continent. That's when I walked up behind her, rubbing my frozen red hands together, and locked my eyes onto those little green sprouts like they were made of solid gold. Which, in a way, they were. Well, Minister of Agriculture. Looks like our poop alchemy experiment was a success. Alara shot to her feet, cheeks slightly flushed from the heat, obviously, and hit me with her best scholarly glare. Baron, please. It's called the combinatory application of aerobic composting methodology and controlled environment thermal agriculture. Sure. Poop alchemy. That's what I said. But even as she corrected me, I caught the way she looked at me. It wasn't the icy death stare from day one anymore. It wasn't suspicion or contempt. It was something closer to awe. Like she was looking at something she couldn't fully comprehend. A man who'd solved in 3 weeks with brute force capitalism what the entire academic establishment couldn't solve in centuries of debate. No fancy theory. No peer review. No academic conferences. Just an ocean of silver coins smashed against the laws of nature until nature blinked first. She found it terrifying. And maybe, just a tiny bit, impressive. I don't care what it's called. I wave my hand. I care about numbers. These 20 greenhouses, plus the 2,000 acres of winter wheat buried under snow outside. When spring thaws hit, how much food are we talking? Alara took a breath so deep her whole body expanded, then gave me a number that made her own eyes go wide saying it. With the quality of fertilizer we used and the premium seeds you bought at. Absurd cost. My lord, conservative estimate. Next autumn's harvest will feed all 6,000 Greywood citizens, eating as much as they want, for 3 full years. 3 years? My eyes turned into searchlights. My brain caught fire. 6,000 people, 3 years of food. But what if I tripled the population to 20,000? That's still a full year of food, easy. 20,000 people means 20,000 silver coins per day. 200 gold coins daily. 6,000 gold per month. I could buy a small kingdom in 6 months. Brilliant, Ilera. You are the single most valuable person in this entire territory. I grabbed her dirt-covered hands and shook them so hard her whole body wobbled. Pure reflex. Pure excitement. The handshake of a CEO who just saw next quarter's projections. Her pale cheeks went noticeably pink. She pulled her hands back with that half-elf dignity thing she does. My lord, you gave me the opportunity to use my knowledge. I'm simply doing my job. A pause. Then the scientist brain kicked back in. However, the firewood consumption for these greenhouses is extreme. Our budget? Money is nothing. If these sprouts keep growing, I'd burn gold bars to keep them warm. I was already heading for the door, throwing my bear coat back on. Take care of those seedlings like they're your own children. I've got somewhere to be. Today is a very important day. I marched out into the blizzard, grinning so wide that snowflakes were landing on my teeth. 3 years of food from one harvest. The poop scientist had delivered exactly what I hired her for. My territory was now not just surviving winter. It was building a food surplus big enough to support a population explosion. The equation was beautiful. More food, more people, I can support more people, means more silver, means more food, more people, more silver, repeat forever. It's not a business plan. It's a perpetual motion machine powered by fertilized wheat and human greed. And those 2 little green leaves poking through the dirt in the middle of a snowstorm? Those weren't just sprouts. Those were the first shares of stock in what was about to become the biggest agricultural empire this continent had ever seen. Ilera thought she was growing wheat. She was growing my retirement fund. The extremely important day I mentioned? This was it. The first blizzard settlement. The final exam. The moment of truth. I was back in my office. Clock on the wall, 5:58 a.m. Baller was standing next to me clutching the population ledger, looking like a man waiting for medical test results. And honestly, I was terrified too. In this world, the first snowstorm is basically the Grim Reaper's annual shopping trip. Every year after the first big freeze, lords across the continent send wagons into the slums to collect frozen corpses. Hundreds, thousands, stacked up like firewood. Just another Tuesday in medieval winter. I'd spent 40,000 silver coins on winter supplies. Every citizen had a warm cabin, a sheepskin coat, firewood, and hot food. Even my bandit slaves in the quarry got thick blankets and hot porridge. Not because I cared about their feelings, but because a frozen slave is a silver coin that stopped printing. This was the ultimate hedge. The biggest insurance policy in Greywood's history. Every copper I'd spent over the past weeks came down to this moment. 5:59. My fingers were drumming the table so hard I was basically playing a war drum. Tick, tick, tick. 6 a.m. Ding. Daily settlement complete. Performing extreme weather survival assessment. Oh God. It was doing a special check. The system was running diagnostics. Like a doctor examining a patient. My heart crawled into my throat. Registered surviving population, 6,381. Deaths from extreme cold. Come on. 0. I launched out of my chair like a rocket, slammed both hands on the desk, and let out a laugh so loud and so evil-sounding that if anyone had been listening outside, they would have called an exorcist. Ha 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 ha. BLR. Not one. Not a single person. Not the weakest old grandma. Not the skinniest baby. Not even one of those rock-smashing bandit slaves. 0 deaths. 0. I was pacing around the room like a maniac, punching the air. My silver coin fortress held. Death came knocking and I told him to go screw himself. 40,000 silver coins, spent on coats, firewood, houses, and heated shelters, and every single copper paid off. 100% survival rate. In a medieval blizzard. In a territory that 6 months ago was a mud pit. Baller didn't know how I knew nobody died. The census hadn't even been taken yet. But at this point, the old man had given up trying to understand me. He just dropped to one knee, eyes glistening, and declared, "My lord, this is a miracle. Your mercy has shielded Greywood. After tonight, your name will be worshipped like a god." Worshipped? I'm not doing this for worship, you old goat. I'm protecting my portfolio, I screamed internally. But externally, I just nodded wisely. Very noble. Very leader-like. Then my business brain kicked into 5th gear. Because a beautiful, horrible, genius idea was forming. My town 0 deaths. Warm, fed, alive, cozy. Every other town within 100 miles, mass casualties. Frozen bodies stacking up. Lords panicking. Refugees flooding out with nowhere to go. Do you see it? Do you see it? This blizzard wasn't a disaster. It was a Black Friday sale, a fire sale, a liquidation event, a going out OF business clearance. Except what was being cleared out was human beings, and I was the only buyer with cash in hand. Baller, get Mars. Now, drag that fat merchant out of bed. But my lord, the snow is enormous. What do you need from the Gold Eagle Company? We have enough supplies. We have enough stuff. We don't have enough people. I walked to the window. What as far as the eye could see? Somewhere out there, in Red Leaf territory, in Black Iron City, in a dozen pathetic little baronies, thousands of peasants were huddled in leaky shacks, slowly freezing, slowly dying. Their lord saw them as dead weight. Mouths to feed. Liabilities on the balance sheet. Garbage that'll rot in the ditches by morning. I turned around and smiled the smile of a man who sees opportunity where everyone else sees corpses. To them, those freezing refugees are waste to be thrown away. But to me, they're premium assets being sold at the lowest prices in history. Send Mars with our surplus grain and spare sheepskin coats. Have him visit every lord in the region. Tell them Greywood will generously dispose of their burden. One living person, any age, any condition, even missing a leg, in exchange for 1 pound of cheap black oats. If they want more, throw coppers at them. I don't care. Just load those half-frozen people onto carts and bring them here. Hundreds. Thousands. Every breathing body they can find. Baller sucked in a breath so cold it probably froze his lungs. The realization hit him like a snowball to the face. I wasn't just surviving winter. I was using winter as a weapon. While every other lord was hemorrhaging population to the cold, I was going shopping, buying humans at pennies on the dollar, scooping up, worthless, refugees that would each generate a silver coin per day the moment they were registered. Other lords were posting losses. I was acquiring assets at a massive discount. This wasn't survival. This was a hostile takeover of the entire region's population, executed during the worst blizzard in years, funded by a magic money printer and disguised as charity. Go, baller. I stared into the white void outside my window, eyes burning hot enough to melt the frost on the glass. Before this winter is over, I want Greywood's population to break 10,000. 10,000 people. 10,000 daily silver coins. 100 gold per day. 3,000 gold per month. While every other lord on this frozen continent was counting their dead, I'd be counting my new arrivals. Winter isn't a season. It's a sale. And I'm buying everything. Half a month of blizzard. The entire continent frozen solid like a giant ice cube that nobody asked for. And then Mars came back from his shopping trip. I was standing in the town square, rubbing my hands together, ready to welcome my beautiful new revenue streams with open arms and a big stupid grin. 10,000 population. Here we come. More silver. More coins. More. My smile died on my face like a candle in a hurricane. What rolled into my town wasn't a caravan of future citizens. It was a horror show on wheels. 1,200 people. And I used the word people generously because what I was looking at was closer to barely alive disasters wrapped in frozen rags. 80% of them had frostbitten hands and feet oozing pus. A third were delirious with fever, coughing so violently it sounded like the entire square was trying to hack up a lung simultaneously. And some of them, oh God, some of them had that special smell. The unmistakable signature scent of dysentery. These weren't assets. These were toxic assets. Subprime mortgages in human form. This was the medieval equivalent of buying a portfolio of junk bonds and discovering they're actually just paper bags full of bees. Mars, you stupid pig. I grabbed the fat man's collar and shook him like a snow globe. I told you to buy quality assets. You brought me 1,000 biological weapons that are about to nuke my entire territory. Mars was jiggling with terror, blubbering through his triple chins. But my lord, you said anyone alive. Every territory was dumping their sick peasants. I literally pulled these people out of dead body piles. This was the best inventory available. I shoved him away and checked my system panel, trying to calm down. New citizens detected, 1,206. Projected daily income, 7,500 silver coins. 7,500. That number should have made me dance. That's 75 gold coins a day. I should have been doing backflips, but I couldn't smile. Not even a little. Because here's what my greedy little brain had failed to calculate when I sent Mars on his, by every human being in the region, mission, my existing 6,000 citizens, healthy. Months of meat porridge, clean water, warm houses, mandatory bathing, the absolute cleanliness act. I'd spent a fortune turning them into the healthiest peasant population on the continent. And now I was about to dump 1,200 walking petri dishes into the same town. Frostbite, flu, fever, dysentery, diseases that spread faster than gossip at a medieval market. If even one of those infections jumped to my main population, if it hit the Iron Guard, the construction teams, the greenhouse workers, game over. 6,000 healthy money printers wiped out by plague. My daily income wouldn't drop, it would collapse. From 7,000 to maybe 700. Maybe less. Maybe zero. This was the moment I learned the first real lesson of population economics. Growth without infrastructure is suicide. You can't just shovel people into a town like coins into a bag. People get sick. People spread sickness. And one bad batch of refugees can poison the entire well. I'd gotten greedy. I'd gotten sloppy. And now I was staring at the consequences standing in my town square, coughing blood onto my nice, clean gravel roads. Shut it down. All of it. I made the call instantly. No hesitation. No, but maybe we can squeeze a few more in. All population acquisition, canceled. Effective immediately. Until we process this batch, not one more person enters Greywood. Not a refugee, not a merchant, not a stray dog. Baller was panicking beside me, hopping from foot to foot. My lord, what do we do with them? Send them away? If they infect the Iron Guard or the builders, our entire winter is ruined. Send them away? Is your brain made of manure, Baller? I glared at the 1,200 shivering, coughing, half-dead wretches and thought, every single one of them, as long as they take one more breath past 6 a.m. tomorrow, spits out a silver coin for me. You want me to throw money into a snowbank? Can't keep them. Can't dump them. Can't let them near my healthy people. Can't let them die. There was only one play. Gareth, old wolf, materialized from somewhere, as he always does, like a loyal attack dog with a sixth sense for when I need violence organized. Take the Iron Guard. West side of town. Downwind. Right now. Build a fenced quarantine zone. Wooden barriers. Nobody in or out without my say-so. I drew my sword. Not to fight, but because dramatic gestures help people understand I'm not joking. Every single new arrival goes into quarantine. Set up emergency tents. Boil water. Keep them separated from the main population by at least 300 feet. And someone get me a Lara. Now, because if anyone could figure out how to keep 1,200 plague bombs from detonating inside my money factory, it was my angry half-elf poop scientist. I stood in the snow, watching my guards herd the sick refugees toward the quarantine zone, and for the first time since I got this system, I felt something I hadn't felt before. Fear. Not of dying. Not of enemies. Not of winter. Fear of my own greed. I'd been so drunk on the more people equals more money equation that I forgot the fine print. People aren't coins. You can't stack them in a bag and forget about them. They get sick. They spread disease. They require maintenance. I treated population growth like a stock ticker. Number goes up, everything's fine. But populations aren't stocks. Stocks don't get dysentery. Stocks don't cough on each other. Stocks don't turn your healthy portfolio into a mass grave overnight. Lesson learned. Painfully. Expensively. With 1,200 sick humans as the tuition bill. Step 1, quarantine. Step 2, treat. Step 3, never do blind bulk purchasing of humans in a blizzard ever again without a medical screening process. I am an idiot. A rich, terrified, slightly less cocky than yesterday idiot. But I'm an idiot who learns. And this lesson was going to cost me a fortune in medicine and lost sleep. Time to call in the poop scientist and pray she knows something about plague management too. The quarantine zone on the west side of town looked like a medieval horror movie set. Moaning, coughing, the smell of infected frostbite wounds mixing with fever sweat, and, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, diarrhea. Lots of diarrhea. Inside one tent, a young refugee girl named Anna was curled up in a corner, staring at her own feet, which were swollen, cracked, oozing, and basically auditioning for a medical textbook chapter titled, Things That Make Doctors Cry. In Redleaf territory, a sick girl like her would have been tossed into a mass grave while still breathing. She'd already closed her eyes and was mentally writing her own funeral speech. Then a pair of rough hands grabbed her ankle. Ow, that hurts. Shut up, girly. If I don't clean these feet now, they're getting sawed off. That was Martha, Pete's mom, the same woman who'd been weeping with gratitude over a sheepskin coat 2 weeks ago. Except now she was wearing a white linen smock, a homemade face mask, and a wooden badge with a wonky cross drawn in charcoal. She was scrubbing Anna's rotting frostbite wounds with a rag soaked in hard liquor, showing approximately zero mercy and maximum efficiency. Welcome to the Greywood Medical Corps, where the bedside manner is terrible and the survival rate is surprisingly not bad. See, here's what happened. I had 1,200 sick refugees, 0 doctors, and a medical science level that could be summarized as pray and maybe bleed them with a rusty knife until they die faster. So I improvised. Step 1. I drafted every woman and elderly person in town who couldn't do heavy construction, about 300 people, and turned them into a field medical team. No training? No problem. Their qualifications were, has hands, and is willing to touch gross stuff. Step 2. I paid them 3 copper coins a day. For people who'd been classified as useless mouths their entire lives, too old to haul stone, too weak to chop wood. This was like being told they'd won the lottery. Suddenly Grandma was a healthcare professional with an income. Step 3. I pointed them at 1,200 sick people and said go. Listen up, Medical Corps, I shouted from outside the quarantine fence, face covered with a vinegar-soaked cloth because I was not about to catch medieval plague and lose my own silver coin. You are not tending to a pile of rotting meat. You are rescuing Greywood's property. For every sick person you pull back from death's door, full wages plus a bonus of half a pound of white flour. And, just like that, 300 elderly women and retired grandpas turned into the most terrifyingly motivated medical staff in continental history. They stormed those tents like a SWAT team, stripped patients naked, scrubbed them with boiling water whether they wanted it or not, force-fed them bitter herbal soup, cleaned wounds with alcohol, cut away dead flesh with heated knives. No anesthesia, no gentleness. Pure medieval battlefield medicine administered by grandmothers who were being paid per survivor. Meanwhile, outside the quarantine zone, my chief medical officer, who was actually my agricultural poop scientist, was having a meltdown. Alara's beautiful silver hair was wadded into a messy bun. Her face was smeared with soot. She was standing over giant iron pots, screaming at workers to stir faster while she frantically cross-referenced her botanical notes to figure out which herbs might cure frostbite versus which ones might accidentally kill everyone. Lorian, you insatiable lunatic, she spotted me observing from behind the fence and lost it. I am a plant science scholar. I am not a doctor. You're making me guess which herbs treat frostbite based on my knowledge of root systems. If someone dies from my prescription, that's your fault. I stood there in my bare coat, calmly pressing my vinegar cloth against my face. Herbs are plants, Alara. I believe in your expertise. Besides, experimental treatment beats no treatment. Would you rather they just rot in those tents? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, closed it. She had no comeback because I was technically right, which is the most infuriating kind of right. Look, I knew our hospital was basically a war crime against real medicine. I knew that in my old world, actual doctors would faint if they saw what we were doing. But I also knew that this world's actual medical practice was drain a pint of blood and hope for the best, which had a survival rate roughly equal to Russian roulette. My approach was simple, modern common sense. Boil water, clean wounds with alcohol, quarantine the sick, force everyone to wash, make herbal tea and pray it does something. It wasn't science. It was aggressive hygiene plus wishful thinking. But against medieval standards, it was basically brain surgery. Inside the tent, Anna was drinking scalding urban meat broth that Martha was pouring down her throat with the tenderness of a woman stuffing a turkey. Color was returning to her face. Her feet were clean, bandaged, and no longer actively decomposing. Tears running down her cheeks, Anna whispered, "Why? Why is the Lord spending so much money to save worthless people like us?" Martha was already moving to the next patient, using a red-hot blade to cut dead flesh off someone's hand with the casual confidence of a woman who'd been doing this her entire life instead of learning it 3 hours ago. "Oh, sweetheart," Martha said, radiating the fierce pride of a woman earning her first paycheck at age 53. In Lord Lorien's eyes, as long as you can breathe, you're not worthless, the Lord said. Even if you end up crippled, even if all you can do is sit on a stool and twist rope for the rest of your life, you are a precious foundation of graywood. Beautiful speech. Deeply moving. Also a very generous interpretation of what I actually said, which was closer to, keep them alive. I don't care if they're missing limbs, a breathing. Cripple still counts as 1 silver coin per day, but Martha didn't need to know the accounting behind the compassion. The result was the same, people getting saved. I stood outside the fence, watching the health indicator on my system panel slowly, painfully slowly, stop its nosedive and begin to stabilize. Was I a good person? Debatable. Was I saving 1,200 lives? Technically, yes. Was I doing it because each of those lives represented a daily silver coin that I refused to let expire? Absolutely. These sick refugees weren't patients to me. They were rusty gears. Corroded, damaged, some missing a few teeth. But with enough oil, in this case, boiling water, herbal soup, aggressive grandmothers, and a very angry half-elf botanist, most of them would spin again. And every gear that kept turning would go ding at 6 a.m. tomorrow. That's all I needed. Just keep spinning, little gears. Daddy needs his daily deposit. Just when I thought I'd survive the refugee health crisis, the universe said, LOL, here's another one, and threw a fuel emergency at my face. Baller crashed through my door at midnight like a human cannonball, lips purple, hands shaking, waving a parchment report like it was a death warrant. My lord, we've cut down every tree within reach. The wood is gone. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. How long do we have? 3 days. Maybe. The quarantine zone is burning through firewood double the rate we planned. All those medical bonfires, the herb boiling pots, the heating tents, and with 7,000 people running their fireplaces around the clock. 3 days, and then what? Then the greenhouse fires go out. Every wheat sprout Alara grew freezes to death. Then the house fireplaces die. Then 7,000 people are sitting in dark, frozen boxes waiting to become ice sculptures. My fist hit the table so hard the ink bottle jumped. Energy crisis. This was the ugly math I'd ignored. 7,000 fireplaces burning 24 hours a day eats through wood like a termite on steroids. And I couldn't send lumberjacks into the deep forest. In -20 blizzard conditions, I'd lose dozens of men per trip. That's dozens of daily silver coins, gone, just to collect fuel. Unacceptable casualty rate. No coal, no oil, no electricity, no gas, just wood. And we'd eaten through every tree within safe walking distance like a swarm of hungry beavers. Medieval towns have a physical population cap because of this exact problem. You can only burn so much wood. I'd hit the ceiling, and the ceiling was about to collapse on my entire operation. I was sitting there, genuinely considering paying Mars's Gold Eagle Company an astronomical fortune to haul charcoal from distant cities through a blizzard, which would probably cost more than the charcoal was worth, when Old Wolf burst through the door covered head to toe in snow. My lord, emergency at the quarry. What now? The slave miners. They hit something. Some kind of cursed black substance is leaking out of the rock. The whole deep pit is oozing black liquid. They think they dug into a demon's toilet. A demon's what? 30 minutes later, I was standing at the edge of the quarry pit in a blizzard, holding a torch, staring down at 34 terrified bandit slaves who looked like they'd been dipped in ink. Scarface Kyle threw himself at my feet, wailing, "Have mercy, my lord. We were just mining stone like you ordered. But the rocks down here aren't rocks. They're black. They crumble when you hit them. They stain everything. This is demon excrement. We've been cursed." Every single slave was black from head to toe, eyes wide with terror, whites gleaming out of cold dark faces like a racist cartoon that I am not going to think too hard about. I ignored the crying, walked down into the pit, picked up one of the black stones. It was light, soft, left dark powder on my leather glove when I squeezed it. Had a faint, dull sheen. My heart started beating faster. That capitalist sixth sense, the one that tingles when money is nearby, was going haywire. I brought my torch closer. Slowly, carefully. The black stone resisted for a second. Then it started to glow red. Then, whoosh. It caught fire. On its own. Burning hot. Incredibly hot. Way hotter than wood. with a sharp sulfur smell that stung my nostrils. I stood there in the blizzard, holding a burning rock, watching it glow orange in my hand, and every single problem I'd been panicking about 3 minutes ago evaporated like steam. Demon excrement? You absolute morons. I spun around in the snowstorm and started laughing. Not a chuckle, not a giggle. A full body, head thrown back, tears in my eyes cackle that echoed off the quarry walls. Baller and Old Wolf exchanged worried glances. They thought the stress had finally broken me. BLR. Gareth. Look, I held the burning stone above my head like a prophet holding a holy relic. In the blizzard, its orange glow lit up my face in a way that probably looked completely insane. This isn't a rock. This is coal. This is black gold. This is enough fuel to roast the entire continent's winter into submission. Coal. A full exposed seam of it. Right underneath my quarry. My bandit slaves had accidentally strip-mined their way into what could be one of the biggest energy deposits in the region. Wood runs out. Trees take years to grow back. There's a hard limit on how many fireplaces you can feed. But coal? Coal burns hotter. Coal burns longer. Coal can be stacked, stored, and rationed. Coal means my greenhouses stay warm. My houses stay heated. My 7,000 citizens stay alive. And most importantly, coal removes the population cap entirely. With coal, I could support not 7,000, not 10,000, 50,000 people through winter. 100,000. The math changes completely. I turned to the bandit slaves. Those beautiful, filthy, terrified, accidentally genius little money printers. And my face split into the warmest smile I'd ever given a group of criminals. Kyle. Outstanding work. You have performed a service of legendary proportions for Greywood. Kyle's black face lit up with hope. Does that mean we can be free? Regular citizens. Free? My smile went from warm to Arctic in 0.2 seconds. Oh, Kyle. You precious, optimistic little man. Effective immediately, you are all promoted to Greywood's first official royal coal miners. 2 pickaxes each. Double rations of oat mush. Warm leather coats. You're getting the VIP slave package. Kyle's hope died the most visible death I'd ever witnessed on a human face. Gareth, convert the quarry to a coal mine. I want round-the-clock extraction. Old Wolf saluted so hard he nearly dislocated his shoulder. And the new motto for our mining division: if IT doesn't kill you, keep digging. I want black gold stacked in every fireplace in Greywood by sunrise. I marched back through the blizzard, cackling like a villain, the burning coal still glowing in my hand like a tiny orange star. 3 hours ago, I was staring at the extinction of my entire operation. Fuel gone. Trees gone. 3 days from total system collapse. Now I was standing on top of an energy reserve that could power a city. The wood age of Greywood was over. The coal age had begun. Other lords were still burning sticks like cavemen, carefully rationing every twig, praying their firewood lasted until spring. I had just unlocked the Industrial Revolution. In a quarry, mined by bandit slaves, who thought they'd found demon poop. Fuel crisis? Solved. Population ceiling? Deleted. Path to 10,000 citizens? Wide open. And somewhere in that dark, frozen mine, 34 shivering ex-bandits were picking up their new pickaxes, realizing that their promotion meant they'd be digging coal in the dark for the rest of their natural lives. But hey, double porridge. That's something, right? When the first cartload of coal rolled into the town square, my citizens looked at it like someone had wheeled in a bomb made of dragon poop. This stuff burns? By the light god. It smells like a demon's fart. Pete was poking a lump of coal with the butt of his spear, holding it at maximum arm's length, face scrunched up like he'd been slapped with a dirty sock. Whack. Old Wolf smacked the back of Pete's head so hard the kid's teeth clacked. Shut it. If the Lord says it burns, it burns. If the Lord said ICE was flammable, you'd better start rubbing 2 icicles together. God, I love that man. Old Wolf grabbed a chunk of coal the size of a soccer ball, marched into the nearest cabin, and chucked it straight into the dying fireplace like he was making a free throw. A few minutes of silence. Then the coal started smoking. A thin blue haze at first. Then the surface began to glow, not bright flames like wood, but a deep, menacing, dark red pulse. Like the stone itself was angry. And then, the heat. Old Wolf had been standing 3 feet from the fireplace like a tough guy. The heat wave hit him so hard he stumbled backward 3 full steps. eyes wide as plates. Holy, this black rock puts out 3 times more heat than the best red pine. What I asked this stuff. That night, for the first time in Greywood's history, every chimney in town was puffing out thin black smoke with a faint sulfur tang. Did it smell great? No. It smelled like eggs that had been left in hell's refrigerator for a month. But at minus 20 degrees? When the alternative was freezing to death. That sulfur stink was the sweetest perfume my citizens had ever inhaled. People were standing by their fireplaces in their underwear, sweating, in the middle of a blizzard, complaining it was too hot, in a medieval winter, in a town that 6 months ago didn't have walls. But the real winner? Alara's greenhouses. My favorite poop scientist was standing in her temperature-controlled wheat palace, staring at the coal burning in the underground heating channels with the expression of a woman whose entire understanding of reality had just been flipped upside down and shaken. Wood burned fast. Someone had to feed the fire pits every 2 hours. If the night shift guy fell asleep, and they always fell asleep because it's 3 a.m. and humans are humans, the greenhouse temperature would crash and her precious seedlings would die. She'd been living in a state of permanent anxiety for weeks. But coal? She packed the fire channels once, and they burned steady, hot, and even for 8 straight hours. No babysitting. No midnight panic. Just consistent, reliable, beautiful heat. "My lord," she said when I walked in, and her voice had that special tremble it gets when she's about to nerd out. "Where did you learn about this mineral? What ancient text? What scholarly archive? With this fuel, I can raise the greenhouse temperature by 5 degrees. I could attempt growing summer vegetables in the middle of winter. Summer vegetables. In a blizzard." This woman was ready to break the laws of nature with a rock my bandit slaves thought was cursed feces. Ancient text? No, Alara. This is the nose of a capitalist. I was peeling off my bare coat because the greenhouse was so warm I was actually overheating. I unbuttoned my shirt collar. In January. Inside a tent. While a blizzard raged outside. Now go tell the medical corps grandmas in the quarantine zone. Switch every fire pit to coal. Boil water around the clock. 24 hours, non-stop. If we keep temperatures high enough, we can sweat the cold right out of those sick refugees. More heat meant faster recovery. Faster recovery meant fewer deaths. Fewer deaths meant more silver coins at 6 a.m. The logic was flawless. And speaking of 6 a.m., ding. Daily settlement complete. Surviving population, 7,587. Notice, cross-era energy system upgrade detected with coal. Citizen freeze-death probability reduced to minimal levels. Population health values recovering. Today's payout, 7,587 silver coins. 7,587. The number was climbing again. Health values recovering. Freeze-death probability minimal. I'd gone from 3-day countdown to total collapse. To the most energy-secure territory on the continent. In about 12 hours. Because some bandit slaves accidentally discovered coal while being punished for trying to rob me. The irony was so thick you could mine it. Every crisis in Greywood seemed to follow the same insane pattern. Something terrible happens, I panic, and then the solution falls out of the sky, or in this case, out of the ground, and makes me richer than before. I sat by the window, sipping hot tea, watching snow swirl past the glass, feeling genuinely relaxed for the first time in days. Energy crisis? Crushed. Quarantine zone? Stabilizing. 7,000 plus citizens. Warm, fed, and generating 75 gold coins daily. Coal reserves? Unknown, but that exposed seam looked massive. All I have to do now, I murmured, blowing steam off my tea, is sit tight and wait for spring. Famous last words, right? Because out there in the frozen wasteland, beyond my walls, beyond my warm chimneys and coal fires and happy little money machines, the winter was doing what winter does best, making hungry things desperate, and desperate things have teeth. But that's tomorrow's problem. Tonight, I had hot tea, a heated office, 7,587 reasons to smile, and the faint smell of sulfur wafting through the air like the perfume of progress. The Industrial Revolution had arrived in the medieval world, and it smelled like rotten eggs. Beautiful, profitable, portfolio-saving rotten eggs. So remember when I said, just wait for spring, and sip my tea like everything was fine? Yeah, the universe heard that and took it personally. 30 miles out in the frozen wasteland, 200-something nightmares were stomping through the black pine forest. And when I say nightmares, I mean literal monsters. Half-orcs, 7 feet tall, green skin thick as leather, tusks poking out of their mouths like nature's worst orthodontic job. Each one built like a refrigerator that learned to walk and developed anger issues. Carrying bone clubs the size of my entire body and rusty iron slabs that they apparently considered weapons. Their chief, a charming fellow called Bone Crusher, Grom, hadn't eaten in 3 days. His whole tribe was starving. Even the goblins they usually snacked on had vanished. 200 hungry half-orcs with nothing to lose and everything to eat. Then the wind shifted. Through the sulfur smell of my coal fires, Grom's massive green nose caught 2 things: the scent of roasted salted pork and the body odor of thousands of human beings. In half-orc language, humans are called two-legged sheep, which tells you everything you need to know about their dinner plans. Food. Meat ahead. Rip them. Take their fire. 200 green killing machines went berserk and charged toward my town like a stampede of angry trucks. Here's the fun part about half-orcs. One adult half-orc warrior can rip apart 3 fully armed human soldiers with his bare hands. Professional knights won't fight them on foot. They are the apex predators of this continent, and even trained armies treat them like natural disasters rather than opponents. And 200 of them were sprinting at my wooden fence at 1 a.m. The ground was literally shaking. My night shift sentry felt the vibrations through his boots, looked into the darkness, and had approximately 0.3 seconds to process what he was seeing before screaming the alarm. Enemy attack. The horn tore through the blizzard. Old Wolf was out of bed and holding his sword before his pants were even on properly. He climbed the defense platform, squinted into the torchlight, saw 200 massive green silhouettes charging through the snow, and his heart did something hearts aren't supposed to do. Half-orcs. How in the name of? Why are there half-orcs here? The man had fought these things in the army. He knew what they were. Walking meat grinders. The kind of enemy where tactical retreat is a generous term for run screaming. Pete was next to him, spear shaking in his hands, staring at creatures that looked like small buildings with teeth. Captain, can we actually stop them? Old Wolf slapped Pete across the face so hard it echoed over the blizzard. Motivational leadership at its finest. Can't stop them? Have you forgotten your warm bed back there? Have you forgotten the half-pound of salted meat your mother collected today? If these green-skinned scumbags break through, who's going to serve your porridge tomorrow morning? For Greywood. For the Lord. 500 Iron Guard soldiers snapped awake like someone had plugged them into an electrical outlet. And just like that, the fear was gone. Because here's the thing. My soldiers had already done the cost-benefit analysis, and they'd done it instantly. Option A. Fight terrifying green monsters and maybe die. Option B. Let green monsters in, lose everything. The warm house, the fireplace, the daily wages, the meat, the white bread, and go back to being starving, freezing, homeless nobodies dying in ditches. Option B was scarier than any half-orc. Formation. Spears at 45 degrees. Nobody moves back. Boom. Crash. Crack. The half-orc slammed into my wooden fence like a green tsunami hitting a sandcastle. Wood splintered. Post snapped. Grom himself smashed through an entire section with one swing of his bone club, tusks gleaming, ready to hear the beautiful music of humans screaming and running. What he heard instead was stab, shunk, 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 shunk. A forest of razor-sharp iron spears met him on the other side. Dozens of sharpened steel points drove into the first wave of charging half-orcs, using their own momentum against them. Green bodies jerked. Green blood sprayed across the snow in steaming arcs. The front line turned into a green pincushion. Even half-orc leather skin couldn't stop forged iron at full charge velocity. Physics doesn't care how tough you are. Grom stumbled backward, stunned. This was wrong. Human militia were supposed to have wooden sticks. Bone tools. Maybe a rusty knife if they were lucky. Not military-grade iron weapons in perfect formation. And their eyes. Why did these pathetic little humans have eyes crazier than his warriors? They looked hungrier than the half-orcs. Like they were the predators. Then, from the darkness behind the battle line, my voice cut through the storm like a blade made of pure capitalism. Attention, Iron Guard. New orders from your lord. Half-orcs are people too. Every soldier's ear perked up. They knew what was coming. Dead greenskins can't generate revenue. I want them alive. Cut their ankle tendons. Capture as many as possible. A half-second pause while 500 brains process this. Then, catch the greenskins. Trade them for white bread. My soldiers went from desperate defense to aggressive hunting, so fast it gave me whiplash. They stopped holding the line and started pouring through the gaps in the broken fence, chasing 200-pound murder machines through the snow. 500 well-fed, well-armed, financially motivated humans pursuing 200 starving half-orcs across a frozen battlefield, not to kill them, but to capture them. Because in my head, every half-orc was a thought experiment. If a regular human citizen equals 1 silver coin per day, and the system counts slaves, and these half-orcs are about to become slaves, then every green-skinned monster on this battlefield was a deposit waiting to be registered. Other lords saw half-orcs and thought, danger. I saw half-orcs and thought, do they count as legal registered residents if I brand them and make them sign with a thumbprint? Because if they do, I just found 200 new silver coins per day trying to eat my fence. Capture them alive, boys. Every breathing greenskin is a bonus in your paycheck. Grom, the mighty bone crusher, chief of a fearsome half-orc raiding tribe, stood in the snow watching his warriors get hamstrung by screaming humans half their size, and for the first time in his brutal life, experienced something he'd never felt before. Confusion. Deep, existential. What is happening and why are the sheep chasing us? Confusion. Welcome to Greywood, big guy, where even the monsters are just undiscovered employees. The fight lasted less than an hour, and honestly, it wasn't even close. Now look, in an open field, 500 human militia versus 200 half-orcs would be a massacre. Those green meatheads would steamroll my guys like bowling balls through toothpicks. But this wasn't an open field. This was the narrow entrance to My Town. My soldiers were well-fed, well-armed, well-rested, and fighting with the desperate energy of men who would rather die than lose their paychecks. The half-orcs? Starving, freezing, running on 3 days of zero food. It was like a raid boss with 5% health running into a fully geared party that just left the spawn point. No contest. By sunrise, the snow had stopped and the battlefield was cleaned up. 120 half-orc bodies were stacked outside the walls like the world's most terrifying firewood pile. And the remaining 80-something survivors, including Big Boy Grom himself, were chained hand and foot with heavy iron links, kneeling in the snowy town square like the galaxy's angriest prisoners of war. They were waiting for the noose. Standard procedure. Captured half-orcs always get executed. That's just how it works in this world. Humans kill orcs. Orcs kill humans. Circle of medieval life. I strolled up to Grom, casually munching on a piece of toasted white bread, wearing my bear coat, looking like a man who'd just woken up from a pleasant nap rather than a guy whose town had been attacked by monsters 3 hours ago. Grom glared at me with those murderous red eyes. 7 feet of pure green muscle and fury, tusks dripping with rage, radiating, I will eat your face, energy. I ignored all of that. Instead, I reached out and squeezed his arm. Then I knocked on his back with my knuckles, like I was testing a watermelon at the grocery store. His arm was thicker than my waist. His back felt like hitting a boulder. His skin was rough as sandpaper, probably couldn't be cut by anything short of military-grade steel. Perfect, I whispered, eyes going full green glow mode. Absolutely perfect. A masterpiece of biological engineering. Baller was backing away so fast he was practically moonwalking. My lord, step away from the monster. They eat people. They have no rational thought. We must execute them immediately. Execute? BLR. You're suggesting I destroy Greywood's property. I spun around and looked at him like he'd just suggested I burn money. You can't see it? These aren't monsters. I pointed at 82 chained half-orcs with the passion of a car salesman presenting the newest model. These are organic, zero-emission, all-terrain, heavy-duty excavators. Baller's face went completely blank, like a computer showing a loading screen. One half-orc has the strength of 3 adult human men. Their skin is so tough that falling rocks in a coal mine won't even scratch them. They barely feel pain. They can work in freezing temperatures without heavy coats. And the best part, I was pacing now, gesturing wildly, breadcrumbs flying everywhere. They eat like pigs. Give them moldy tree roots and leftover oat scraps, and they'll work an entire day. The fuel efficiency on these bad boys is incredible, and silently, in my head, I was screaming the real reason. If the system registers them as slave citizens, that's 82 more silver coins per day. Passive income from creatures that also happen to be the most powerful manual laborers on the planet. They mine coal and print money simultaneously. It's like buying a bulldozer that also has a built-in ATM. Zero hesitation. I grabbed the registration clerk, snatched the ink-stained parchment and charcoal pen, and slapped them onto Grom's massive green face. Thumbprint. Now. Or I chop off every single green head here and use them as compost. I pressed my sword against his throat for emphasis. Grom, mighty bone crusher, terror of the wilderness, chief of a feared half-orc raiding tribe, closed his eyes in humiliation. A few seconds later, his enormous green thumb pressed into the parchment, leaving a fingerprint the size of my entire palm. I held my breath, stared at the system panel. Ding. Special race slave citizens 82 detected. Current population 7,669. Bonus. Half-orc laborers increase heavy physical work efficiency by 300%. Yes. System, you beautiful, non-discriminatory, equal opportunity genius. It counted them. Green skin and all. The system didn't care about species, race, appearance, or number of tusks. If it breathes and gets registered, it's a coin. 82 new silver coins per day. Plus 300% boost to mining output. Plus near-zero maintenance costs because they eat garbage and don't need winter clothes. I sheathed my sword and turned to Old Wolf. Take all 82 premium excavators to the coal mine. Immediately. The original 30-something bandit slaves? Promoted to supervisors. Give these green boys the biggest pickaxes we've got. From today, round-the-clock coal extraction. 2 tons per half-orc per day. Anyone who doesn't hit quota gets no food. Grom looked up at me, utterly confused. He'd expected torture. He'd expected death. He'd expected his skull mounted on a pike. Instead, he was being sent to dig rocks, and given food for doing it. In the wilderness, captured half-orcs get slowly dismembered for entertainment. This pink-skinned lunatic was giving them jobs. Grom didn't understand the word excavator, but dig black rocks, get food, don't die, was simple enough for any species to grasp. I watched my beautiful green mining fleet get marched toward the coal pits in chains, each one worth a silver coin per day, plus the mining output of 3 human workers, and I brushed the breadcrumbs off my coat with deep satisfaction. Baller. When the snow melts and the trade roads open, tell Mars to free up half his caravan fleet. The old man blinked. For what, my lord? My eyes sparkled with the light of a man who'd just invented an entirely new industry. We're going into the export business. Greywood's signature product, premium smokeless black gold coal, is about to hit every fireplace in every territory within 100 miles. Think about it. Every lord on this continent was desperate for fuel right now, burning their last twigs, rationing kindling like it was diamonds, watching their people freeze while they sat in slightly less cold castles feeling helpless. And here I was, sitting on a coal mine being operated by 82 biological excavators who worked for table scraps, producing more fuel than my entire town could burn. Supply? Unlimited. Demand? Through the roof. Competition? Zero. Nobody else even knew coal existed. I wasn't just going to sell coal. I was going to create a monopoly. The first and only energy company on the continent. Greywood Coal Corporation patent pending. No competitors. Infinite margins. And here's the cherry on top. Once I was publicly selling a valuable export product, nobody would question where my money came from anymore. Rich Baron with a coal mine makes perfect sense. No more. Where'd the broke exile get all that silver? Whispers. The cover story writes itself. Half-orcs attacked my town and accidentally became my mining workforce. Their invasion just funded my entire economic empire. I swear, the more things try to destroy Greywood, the richer I get. At this point, I'm hoping for another attack. Send dragons next time. I bet they count as citizens too.